Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Why We Love Doctor Who. Let's get straight at it as we're running a few minutes behind. Welcome to Goldenagedgeek, to Burranjor, and of course to John the White. Gentlemen, welcome, and how are we today?
Hello, everybody. Oh, we're good. And Archie Collins, quite right. You are not alone because Sadako was a bit worried
He
there that
thought
he
he
was
thought
going
it
to
was
be.
on his own, but
So
he's not. No, he's
he's
not.
not. And we've got Golden Age Geek and Burranjor with us as well. So we're all here, congregated here to give our view of why we love Doctor Who Series 6.
Yes, another wonderful. Well, this will be an interesting one to talk about, won't it? Because it's there's going to be definitely mixed opinions on this particular series. I do
It's not
believe.
going to be as straightforward as talking about Series 5. No, it's
No,
not.
no, it's not. It's not going to be pleasant in some circumstances. So it should be interesting to see how it goes. Ooh, so then, shall we crack on with it, John? As
Well,
Burranjor
yeah,
sits
I mean,
off his
it,
mic.
it started at the beginning, didn't it?
Well, yes, as it
Which
always
was,
does.
which was the 23rd of April 2011,
2011. Yes, indeed, it was.
where Series 6 launched with the Impossible Astronaut.
Astronaut.
And what a damn strange story this was.
Yes, just a bit.
Because you start off with a whole sort of sequence with Amy, Rory, and River Song getting blue envelopes.
Yes.
And these lead them to the Utah desert, where they congregate at a diner, and they find. Hang on, how exactly does that work? No, the first thing is they have a dinner at the lake, don't they?
Yes, that's right.
And
They're
then
sitting at
at
the
the
lake.
lake,
Yes.
an astronaut comes out of the water, and the doctor tells him to stay back. The doctor goes over and talks to the astronaut, and the astronaut shoots the doctor, apparently dead. And then
Yes.
there's an old man with a petrol can turns up in order to build a raft and burn the doctor's body. So
Yes.
Amy, Rory, and River are all in, are all in some kind of pieces over this. And they head to a diner, and who's in the diner but the doctor?
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
the doctor is both dead and alive, and
Yes.
they
At the same time. Yeah.
come to the determination that this must be a younger version of the doctor. But nevertheless, the clues put in front of them lead them to the year 1969 and the Oval Office and President Richard Nixon.
Indeed.
Because
Indeed.
there's a little girl who's ringing up the President of the United States, who's afraid of a spaceman.
Yes.
So the Doctor kind of makes the TARDIS turn up in the Oval Office, and at first he camouflages it, but then to sort of show how they got there, they only camouflage it, and lots of Americans get their jaws dropped. But meanwhile, Amy goes to the loo, and while in there, there's a woman who gets completely atomized and blown apart by this weird alien with a really big head and long hands. But as soon as Amy leaves the loo, she forgets all about it.
Completely gone. No idea what's going there. Just
And then the doctor works out there's only one place in the United States where the little girl could be telephoning from, because the names that she's reading out are place names, which gives them a location, which is a warehouse. And in this warehouse, there's more of these sort of weird alien sounds, like these weird aliens are around there. And then the figure in the spaceship turns up and opens up its mask, but it's a little girl. And just as the mask opens, we realise it's a little girl. Amy shoots her. End of part one.
yes. End of part one. Wow. Well, there you go. Woof.
It's a really unusual mix of elements, and I think a problem with the style of this story is it's actually very difficult to describe.
Yeah,
because it kind of advances along in an unusual way, where the plot sort of leaps forward in these great intuitions almost, and you have to really pay attention to keep following it, or you get completely lost.
yes.
So it's an episode that certainly got a lot of criticism for being kind of impenetrable. But before we do part two, let's do some thoughts on part one. What do the guys have to say?
Well, we'll go to Golden Age Geek first. Oh,
I mean, this part is all my sound okay? Because I did think there was a little bit of echoing before. Is it?
Oh, you
Is it all
sound
okay?
fine.
Okay.
yeah, you
That's
sound
good.
fine. Burranjor's having some technical difficulties. He can't seem to get things coming at the moment. So carry on, mate. It seems fine.
I think that the reason why an episode which tackles immediately off the bat the death of the Doctor, I don't really think it's going to work because, Doctor Who is all about us following the character of the Doctor, and the idea that he's going to die, it's not at all convincing. We know there's going to be some sort of way that this is prevented, or they're going to come back from this. There aren't going to be any long-lasting consequences. So I think immediately saying to the audience that, no, the Doctor's going to die, it's very unbelievable, and you don't really feel as if there is much tension or stakes there because you effectively know the outcome before the end of the season.
Yeah. Yes, I get what you're saying there. Absolutely.
We're older, cynical Doctor Who viewers in that sense. So it's very difficult to do something like that and have us believe it, because at most we're going to believe there's going to be some way this is going to be explained away to not be what it looks like, which of course is actually what actually happened. We're not giving away much of a spoiler to let that out, because we all know that Doctor Who didn't finish with Series 6.
Well, exactly.
But I don't know whether a younger viewer might have believed it in the moment.
Possibly.
I don't know, but then if they did believe it, was that a good thing to make them believe at the very start of a new series?
Well, yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah.
So it's a very strange. It's a very strange sort of decision to defend. We're kind of in a position of having to more sort of acknowledge that this was the story decisions that were taken.
Indeed.
But no, I don't believe it worked as a form of mystery.
No.
It was more. It was almost annoying.
Yeah.
Because you knew it was kind of bullshit. So
obviously, yeah, because otherwise the episode would have ended very quickly, wouldn't it? Straight.
But on other parts, the silence, which of course is what we know the large headed aliens are called. They certainly were an intriguing concept. I think they had a bit more potential than they managed to realise. Really, I somehow they I have a feeling the silence could have been a bit more than they turned out to be. They should be a bit more memorable. Ironically,
Ironically, yeah.
But where the episode was scoring big style was in the guest casting.
Yes.
And I think bringing what's his name, Mark
Sheppard.
Mark Sheppard.
Thank you. Yes, who I knew before this. I'd seen him in episodes of Supernatural where he was playing some kind of devil.
Crowley was his character, who's actually fabulous.
He lit the episode up with all his scenes, and
he should have been the master though.
Well, perhaps the portrayal of Nixon was also excellent.
Yes, it was. It was,
and an unusual historical character to put in a Doctor Who. Given his reputation for corruption, which I think is possibly somewhat exaggerated by history, but there you go.
Oh, that's
but it just so happened that at the time that we put a man on the moon, Nixon was indeed the leader of a free world. So
he was indeed.
That's who we were dealing with, and I thought the portrayal was brilliant. Actually, much better than the portrayal of Winston Churchill the year before.
Yeah. Oh God,
I it was a much more faithful show. It really worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't have Burranjor right now, do we? He's.
Oh no, he's back. He's back. He seems
he's
to be.
back. Are you back,
He's working.
Burranjor?
He's working. Burranjor,
I'm still
you there?
getting some static though. Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm still getting some static.
Yeah. I can hear. We can hear you fine. So it might be just it's see clearly your end, mate.
Awkward. Never mind. We
Right,
shall have to
well.
do our best. Do you want to have a go
well,
at
don't worry.
saying something about the first step? Or should we move on to
Oh,
part 2
yeah.
while you...
No. I was
Go on
going to
then.
say I remember that when it aired very clearly. It was a great. Well, I thought at the time it was a great episode. I liked the silence. I liked the fact that it was a bit bigger in scope in terms of like setting and everything. And yeah, Mark Sheppard, I was thrilled to see him in Doctor Who. Only thing I will say is that I agree with what you guys were saying, that you knew the Doctor wasn't going to die. And on top of that, it kind of felt like they were reusing the same story arc for the third year in a row. Because you had the specials where the Doctor knows he's going to die and that hangs over his head. Then you've got in 2010, he knows the TARDIS is going to get blown up. So that's hanging over his head. And now here, I knew at some point he'd find out he was going to die, and then that would be hanging over his head. So it's like they reused the same.
You
And they reuse it next year. They reuse it with.
I was going to make an excellent point about the increase in scale. You know, with the popularity of season 5 in the United States, to then go to the United States for extensive filming and write a story on a bigger canvas. You know, I mean, these were certainly responses to the show having ambition, and maybe in some ways that could be pointing out as a little bit of a justification for reusing the Doctor's gonna die theme, in that, you know, the American audience hadn't really seen the David Tennant stuff to the same level. So we could get away with it. You know, I mean, that's part of it. Try to give it some stakes and some what the hell's going on, some wow factor. It was partly successful and partly not, wasn't it?
Very hit and miss.
So I mean,
I think it's spoiled. Sorry, I think it's spoiled by what came after, because I agree that the Silents were a brilliant villain, but it's just when you find out what they were, they're priests or something that are wanting to kill him to stop a war. That's just lame. I'm sorry, like that was a lame explanation. If you'd had a better and proper backstory, I think they would have been classics. But they work in that story.
Well, I mean, we've got this little girl being shot at the end of part 1. Part 2, which is called Day of the Moon. Amy misses.
Yep.
And then there's a huge time jump of 3 months.
Yeah.
So, you know, thanks for making the narrative easy to follow, flowing from part 1. But Rory and River then spend that time looking for the Silence, while the Doctor and the TARDIS have been captured and being held inside this prison of black blocks inside Area 51.
Yeah.
But that's all part of a bit of a scam the Doctor's running to help them investigate. Ridley's got the TARDIS locked up in there with him. And they all meet up again, and they find that the Silents are everywhere, and they can implant post-hypnotic suggestion to make people forget them, and that they've been around for way longer than anybody realizes. And they investigate the orphanage where the little girl came from.
Yeah.
And Amy finds a picture of herself in that girl's room before Amy's kidnapped by the Silence. Then Canton wounds a Silent which is in the Doctor's prison and records it taunting, "You should kill us all on sight." The Doctor tracks down Amy to the Silence's base and then shows them the live broadcast of the moon landing, in which he puts Canton's recording, therefore instructing all humans to attack the Silence on sight. They basically use that Silence's dismissive comment to create an instruction from the silence ordering humans to attack themselves. Quite clever. Therefore, the silence have to leg it because they can no longer hang out on Earth. It's become too hot for them.
Yeah.
But then also, the Doctor's wondering what the hell is going on with Amy because he thinks that she might be pregnant.
Yeah.
And then the final scene is the little girl is wandering, sort of lost and homeless in an alleyway in New York, and she regenerates.
Yes.
So there's another good old ball of stuff.
Yes, it was
As
a
an
ball of
episode.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Who wants to have a go at it first?
Ugh. Or which one should we say? Go on then, Golden Age Geek. You have a crack at it and you see what you made of it.
I do agree that this episode and how it starts with the time jump and this and that, it does kind of remove the shock value that was established at the end of part 1. But one particular scene that I do really like, and it's actually more than one scene, but one particular aspect of the episode that I did find really well executed was when Amy and what was his name? Oh God, I'm blanking on it now. We just mentioned
Rory?
it. The guy played by
Canton.
Mark Sheppard.
Canton.
Oh, Canton.
Yeah, Canton. When Amy and Canton go to the orphanage and they see how it's all decayed, it's obviously been abandoned for a long time, but the person there obviously still believes it's just a regular day. And when Amy goes into that room and she starts seeing all the markings on the wall, and then she looks up at the window and it's full of it, and she's full of markings, and then she looks up and the silence are all just sort of hibernating on the roof. It was very eerie stuff.
Yeah, agree with that. That was yeah, agree with that. That was eerie. Very eerie.
Yeah, that's one particular thing that I liked.
And I mean the whole putting the marks on their faces so they know when they've seen one. That also damn spooky idea. It helped to establish the danger of being surrounded by them and not even knowing it, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, the markings were good. Yes.
I would say that the ending with the little girl regenerating, I would say that's more of a fitting cliffhanger and a mystery to leave for the audience to ponder in comparison to the Doctor dying, which we know is obviously not going to be the case. But yeah, I think that, again, these two episodes have a lot of charm to them. They obviously have a lot of passion, and they're really that they have a lot that they want to do. And so I obviously do like that. There's little wacky bits of humor now and then when Rory is fiddling around with little artifacts and they're falling apart, and he's obviously just being sort of, as he is, his goofy self. I did think one moment is because, a bit like Mickey in the RTD era, we see Rory go from this sort of submissive dork to actually a pretty strong figure who's protective of his family. And when Amy's little like voice chip thing is on the floor after she gets taken by the silence, and she has a message saying, come save me, and Rory says, we will, and I'm gonna force the Doctor to save you, and he says, Doctor, she always knows that I'm gonna come save her. That sort of that kind of strength that he shows there does show a lot of progression from what we saw in the previous season.
Yeah, agree. You're absolutely right there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is a progression, a good character progression with Rory, as very much as you said, like Mickey's, where we start off with a dork and end up with quite a strong, powerful character. It's quite it's nice to see when characters get developed like that. I do quite enjoy that sort of where you're on the journey with them, and that's really really useful. So
I mean, there's a lot of stuff we kind of like. We talk about the development of Rory, the greater ambition and scope and scale of the story, the location filming in America, the guest cast. I mean, there's a lot of elements here, that certainly made it a wow of an opener.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is it fair to say this is the story that left some of the audience behind?
Yeah. I think so.
No, I wouldn't have said so, to be honest.
You wouldn't
Oh,
have
there you
said
go.
so. No,
I did.
Please.
Well,
What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about like leaving the audience behind, I don't think there was a significant drop in the Matt Smith era. I mean, in some ways, the Matt Smith era was actually more popular than the Tennant one. I mean, it was never going to be as mainstream in the UK because Eccleston and Tennant were coming back, so there was always going to be a lot of hype and nostalgia. But I don't think that the Matt Smith era lost the audience, and I don't think it was this story. If anything, I mean, personally, I can remember, like, I was at uni when this aired Great Times, and, like, Doctor Who, it wasn't seen as something that, like, you know, only nerds liked or something like that. In the country, it was something everyone was talking about, and everyone was going on about, I wonder who that girl is, you know. So I personally, I don't think that's what happened, really. Yeah.
I mean, the ratings here,
I mean, maybe
double
like
they have been.
Yeah, they had good ratings.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? An audience rating of 88 and 87. You can't knock at them numbers, can you? So,
well, let me try and put that another way. Maybe it didn't lose the audience, but did it confuse the audience? Was it a more confusing kind of storytelling to what we'd had before?
Yeah, I think what we'd had before, it's quite linear. This one made you have to pay really at times really pay attention, and compared to like the Tennant ones, which were always these exciting romps, and what the season had just gone, this one was more you had to think and pay attention more, and I think that's where you may have lost a few because they're not used to. They were just used to the excitement and the journey and not having to concentrate so much. Whereas this one, you really did have to pay attention to, or else you would get very, very, very confused. And then, I mean, then thrown in the time jump in the second episode, you know, for a lot of people, it would have confused them. But I mean, yeah, that's what I think. Any case,
should we try a score for the whole thing?
Yeah,
part one and two.
We'll score the whole thing, part 1 and 2 together.
Well, I'll start us off. I mean, I've always kind of just felt okay about this story. It's never really lit me up. It's not one I've reached for very often. I've probably only rewatched it a couple of times. So I'm kind of feeling it's somewhere between a C and a C plus for me. I mean, it's definitely got pluses. So let's go for a C plus.
Fair enough. And I will just go for a bog standard C. It was okay. It was okay in parts, but it didn't really sort of grab me as much as others. So I'll go for a C. There you go. How about you, Golden Age Geek? What do you give it a score at?
Well, as it seems by your scores, I actually think very differently about this episode. I would place it in a sort of B plus, A minus.
Nice.
Okay. Cool.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's and Burranjor, what do you want to score it at?
Well, probably the same as John. It's certainly not a bad two-parter by any means. And it's got lots of good stuff in it. But overall, I wouldn't say it's quite like the big absolute classic that maybe Stephen Moffat was intending it to be. But I mean, it's not bad, and you could argue it's above average. So yeah, I think maybe a C plus or a B. That's probably a bit fair enough,
Fair enough.
Rating for it.
So Golden Age Geek, if you're scoring it a bit higher, I mean, did this make a particularly good impression on you when it went out? Did you really enjoy it when it went out on transmission?
I thought it was a very fun episode, and as I've been through, I do have my criticisms about it, but they're not too big to the point where they take me out of the episode. I can sort of put them aside and say, for the sake of entertainment, you do have some things that you have to just accept going into it. But as I say, nonetheless, there are certainly some criticisms, and by no means it isn't a classic. But I got a very good impression from it.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's what we thought. Is our different perceptions of the whole thing. So
yes, we thought it was going to be like this, didn't we, John?
we did,
yes,
and we're going to continue now with the Curse of the Black Spot.
Oh, pirates.
So straight after all this messing about with Americans and big-headed forgetful aliens, we were down in Cornwall filming. What's the place called outside Austell? Harbour, Charleston Harbour.
Charleston Harbour, wasn't it? Yeah.
Where these 17th century ships are berthed and used by film crews. So we had a cracking time filming on a real ship down there to produce this pirate tale, which is a pretty straightforward story.
Yeah.
There's a distress signal the TARDIS is following.
Yep.
And they land on a pirate ship in the 17th century.
Yes,
captained by Captain Avery.
Yeah, Henry Avery.
Whose crew is being terrorized by a sea monster, a singing siren.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hear her singing and you get a black spot, then you get disintegrated.
You're gone. Yes.
Yeah. And then Rory gets a cut. And Amy and Doctor keep him away from the siren. And the Doctor discovers that the siren's using reflections to look at what's going on. And when Rory and Avery's son Toby get taken by the siren, the Doctor, Amy, and Avery all prick themselves, making themselves bleed, and then the siren teleports them to an invisible alien spaceship.
Of course.
Which is in exactly the same place as the pirate ship. And there they find a sick bay where everyone's there, and they find out this siren's basically malfunctioning, and it's supposed to be healing people, but it's accidentally killing them. And the Doctor sort of basically sorts it all out and turns it off. I can't remember exactly where it goes. Are they really on a spaceship, not on a pirate ship? Because pirates sort of,
I think he's something like that, isn't it?
So at the end,
the pirates go away at the end of the ship.
Yeah, that's right. They do, don't they? They take the siren ship. That's right. Yes. So I mean, that's the whole. That's this episode. It's a romp. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to entertain. Who was playing the siren? It was a pop singer, wasn't it?
Lily Cole.
Lily Cole.
That's right. She has got quite a haunting look to her.
Yes, she has.
So she was quite effective at looking like a strange alien temptress kind of thing.
Yep.
What's everyone's thoughts on this?
I liked it. I don't get why everyone hates it. I mean, I don't know if they still do, but I remember at the time this one got absolutely eviscerated. And honestly, I just sometimes I don't get who fandom. Like, why does a completely inoffensive episode like that get raked over hot coals, but like the Jesus Doctor passes unnoticed? You know, like, I don't get that. The Jesus Doctor was the worst.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah,
well, I was just going to say, I mean, again, it's not going to be anyone's favourite episode, but for what it sets out to do, really, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's just, as you say, it's just a fun romp. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a bit of
is it a kind of disdain for it because it's a big contrast to the series opener? Because if the series opener is trying to be so clever and pushing the audience to concentrate hard to follow the story, whereas this one you can just switch your brain off for. And is that the contrast that fandom didn't like? Did they think it was less serious and less worthy? I just don't know. I'm trying to get into what might have led to that response at the time.
I know it's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's like the thing is, I mean, not every episode can be this big epic. You're going to need some filler episodes, essentially. And as far as fillers go, that's quite a, imaginative, reasonably, like, unique filler episode. I mean, as you say, like, the siren thing, that's quite a cool myth to touch on. And they do it in quite an interesting way that, is still sci-fi. The girl's really good at doing that. So, and there are times where I found it genuinely creepy. I remember watching it.
When we consider some of the stuff that would be coming 2 years down the line, in terms of a drop of quality of the writing in the show.
True.
I mean, I agree. It really does seem unfair that Black Spot has such a lack of regard, because it's absolutely fine. It's just maybe it's just a bit too comfortably self-contained and therefore too forgettable.
I would understand if people just forgot about it, but I was seeing people that absolutely saying I was so embarrassed to be a fan when this was on. I was like, were we watching the same episode? Like,
yeah, that
what's wrong with it?
Does it? That really doesn't make sense.
But that's the joy of fandom, isn't it? And I'm using joy in a sarcastic way. Because it's like, to me, it was a filler episode. It's pirates. It was enjoyable. It chugged along quite nicely. I don't think it deserves the stick it's got. It's I mildly enjoyed it. It's not memorable. It's not a great episode, but it was. I don't think it deserves. Don't deserve the some of the hate it got, because it's like, really, it's.
Sadako says, I think I'd partly come to expect more from the show after series 5. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's the problem, isn't it?
Is that part of it? Did fandom have this idea that the show was on some sort of super cerebral level and meant to have something which was just popcorn stuff?
That could be it, because I think the Matt Smith era, as I said in the wee pre-show bit, I think the Matt Smith era is the absolute best of NuWho. And to be honest, overall, I'd say it's probably, despite some of the controversies, it's actually probably the most well regarded, because not only did the general public and a lot of NuWho fans lap it up, but actually it was the era that really won round a lot of classic era fans. Like, go on any classic era forum, where they're moaning about how much they hate NuWho, and I'm telling you right now, Matt Smith's Doctor is the only one that will be accepted by classic era fans, as a proper legit incarnation. Not Jodie Whittaker, no, Matt Smith.
Oh, no.
Another observation from Sadako. I think another thing is there wasn't a great Matt Smith moment in it.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. Certainly compared to the following week.
There was an alien bogies bit that was funny, where he goes, alien bogies, shit, that was funny, I suppose.
Have we done with this one? Goldenagedgeek, have you done with it?
Well, what I would say is, yes, me too. I don't understand the hate towards this. Whenever you see this mentioned in forums or anything like that, people just absolutely go crazy on this one. I think it is just a piece of fun. I love the setting. I think on a pirate ship, that is particularly cool. One thing I would say that I can understand why people may think this episode is a little bit bad in some aspects is because of the design of the siren, which is this very giant woman, which I just find, it's not bad. It's just very unsettling and a bit uncanny in some places.
Yeah, nothing wrong with being uncanny, though, is there? I think casting Nicole to play that part was going for uncanny. She has a bit of a elfin, strange look to her, doesn't she?
Yeah, she definitely has that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting. Shall we try and score it then?
Oh, I pretty easy for me. I'm just going to go for a straight C.
I'll go for a C plus, because I do quite enjoy the pirate bit, because I like pirates. So C plus for me. Goldenagedgeek, what would you score it as?
I'd say C plus as well.
Excellent. And Burranjor?
Yeah, I'm just going to go with a C plus too.
And Sadako goes for a D. There you go.
Everyone's very happy that this one is in the middle.
Yes,
and
in the middle.
That's just as well, because the Doctor was going to be busy next week because suddenly he had a wife.
Yes.
The remarkable episode, The Doctor's Wife, now, which was the first time writing for the show for famous fantasy creative writer Neil Gaiman.
Yes, indeed, it was. It was indeed.
Certainly, I'm a big fan of Neil Gaiman's writing. So when knowing that Neil Gaiman was going to be providing an episode for the show, I was properly excited for this one. So this one really had my attention, and the story is really really unique. So the Doctor, Amy, and Co are in the TARDIS, and a Time Lord distress cube shows up.
Yep.
Which is extraordinary.
Yes,
We haven't seen these Time Lord cubes since the War Games sort of era.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the Doctor used one to inform the Time Lords of what the War Games was all about.
Yeah.
This is a distress signal from a Time Lord called the
Corsair.
Thank you, the Corsair. Yes. So they find that it's the signal actually leads them outside of this universe to a junkyard on an asteroid. And on this junkyard, there's these various inhabitants. There's a woman called Auntie, there's a guy called Uncle, and there's a dude called Nephew, and a very excitable woman called Idris.
Idris, indeed.
And Auntie and Uncle are kind of made up of all kinds of stitched together bits of different people.
Yeah.
So they're kind of patchwork figures. And Idris is very taken with the Doctor. But then the Doctor discovers that there's an intelligence that calls itself House, that seems to control the whole asteroid. And that House was luring Time Lords to this asteroid, and that this junkyard is full of bits of dead TARDISes. But while this is going on, House possesses the TARDIS and kicks the TARDIS's essence, soul, spirit into the woman Idris, and takes off with Amy and Rory trapped inside the TARDIS. And the Doctor realizes that the TARDIS's consciousness is now inside Idris, and that any mortal body can't contain that for long. So unless the Doctor can get the consciousness of the TARDIS back inside where it should be soon, the TARDIS will die. So he lashes up some spare bits to make an emergency TARDIS, and they make it back on board, and the TARDIS kicks House out and banishes him back to his dimension, I presume.
I presume so, yeah.
Everything's all right again. But I mean, that's basically, it's a story of the TARDIS being possessed and stolen, and the TARDIS being put inside a human body for a brief period of time, so that the Doctor and the TARDIS can have a conversation they could never have before.
Yeah.
So lots of unique ideas with a real love and affection for the whole history of the show.
Absolutely. Yes.
Who wants to start? Who wants to give a view on it?
Who wants to get a crack on this one? I'll throw it up. Who's going to shout first? Who wants to have a crack at this one first? That's right. Burranjor, why don't you let us know what you think about this one?
Well, I hate to say I've got kind of mixed feelings on it, to be honest.
That's okay.
I think it's very overrated.
Interesting. Carry on. Pray tell us.
Well, the central concept is good. Michael Sheen's a really, really good villain in it. I mean, he does a great job. He's kind of like Sutek, very unlike NuWho villains. They thankfully go for a kind of more subdued approach with it, which is good. I really like Saran Jones, although she's maybe a bit too OTT here, but she's a really, really good actress overall. But to start with, there's some things I don't like. Like, for instance, I really hate, this was the start of all the gender bending bullshit, which Neil Gaiman said he put in so that we could get a female Doctor. I mean, I'm sorry, John, I think Neil Gaiman's a bit of an arse in some places.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say he wasn't an arse.
No.
He's so condescending, by the way, when he's like telling nerds how to respect women. He drives me up the freaking wall with that. But at any rate, yeah, so there's that stuff in it that's annoying. And on top of that, I don't really like what they do, like having the Doctor kiss the TARDIS. It's like, and to be honest, also it's kind of the big moment where I can finally talk to you is undermined, considering, remember, the TARDIS talks to Clara like less than a year later. It takes a form and talks to her. So it's like, why, if it needs to talk to, you know, the Doctor, like, why doesn't it just do that, what it did with Clara? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Apart from that, it's not, like I said, it's not a bad story, but to us, again, it's one of the things I don't like in fandom. It's like they go ridiculously hard in the previous one, and for this one, they hype up as though it's like the most beautiful, poignant, you know, episode of anything ever made, and to us, neither's quite deserving of that, you know, status. So I mean, it's a good episode, but there's some problems with it, and it suffers a bit from some Neil Gaimanisms, which I find annoying. And just one last thing, actually. When you say it was done with a lot of care, actually, Stephen Moffat, ironically, considering what he would do, he had to edit out a lot of Neil Gaiman's crap, because apparently Neil Gaiman was going to do stuff like reveal the Doctor's origins, that the Corsair had inspired him to go traveling the universe and stuff like that. It would have been awful, whereas it was Stephen Moffat that thankfully cut.
Well, I mean, that's what the editing process is for. But I mean, you know, if it's true, you put that in your script, then I don't suppose he wanted it being taken out. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Neil Gaiman certainly is a divisive figure, especially these days. It may be less of a divisive figure back in 2011, because I mean, he's certainly been winding people up in more recent times.
No, yes.
And yeah, I could completely see how people could not like the ideas, but I still felt it was bold, and it was done. You know, there was a lot of care put into the story. I felt, after all, this was the first time we'd seen any TARDIS scenes beyond the console room in NuWho.
True.
So effort was made to produce new sets and, you know, to expand to do world building. And I think it's definitely a good world building episode. And I also felt that House was really effective as this sort of tormenting spirit.
Oh, definitely.
But you know, yeah, I mean, I could see how people could feel that it was overdone for the Doctor to kind of have a passionate kiss with the TARDIS. But then again, you know, he spent a lot of time polishing her knobs.
My friend of mine actually made a joke about that. I remember years, like when we watched Classic Who on video, and we were stupid teenagers. And my friends made a joke about the TARDIS being a sex machine because it always makes a noise like. That's actually what they did. They actually did that. What he was doing as a joke in the fucking story itself. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Goldenagedgeek, where are you on this?
Well, this episode I would say is one of my just all-time favourites, and there are some things I would counter to some other people's criticisms of this episode. So, with the introduction of the idea that Time Lords can in fact change gender, I've always said this, and it's been pretty controversial for both sides of the opinion, is that in isolation, I don't have any issue with Time Lords being able to change gender. Because if you look at it, if you strip regeneration down to its basics, every single cell in a Time Lord's body changes. So the idea that this could happen is not one that bothers me in the slightest. Well, but now, considering what we got later and the fact that they manipulated what could have been a good idea in order to push their message, I mean, that kind of does make me go a bit when I watch the episode again. But in isolation with this at the time, and how I feel it was still done with some genuine love and consideration for the show, I don't really have a problem with it. I do like the idea of the TARDIS taking human form. I do think it's interesting that the Doctor's, what could be considered the Doctor's greatest companion, which is the TARDIS, the fact that we've never really seen the two being able to communicate, so them, you know, actually communicating was pretty cool to see. As Burranjor mentioned, we do see the TARDIS interacting with other characters later on in the series, but I would criticize those episodes for how they executed the idea, and I wouldn't actually put that as a downside of this story. One scene I do particularly like is the end scene where we have the Doctor going up to the TARDIS console and he says, right, well, off to the Eye of Orion or wherever we need to go, and the TARDIS moves the materialization lever by itself, sort of signifying to us that the consciousness is still there of the TARDIS. And the musical cue that goes off of the sort of magical and majestic theme of the 11th Doctor. I mean, I've always said that I love the sort of fairy tale element of Moffat's Doctor Who, because Moffat's Doctor Who is still hard sci-fi, but it's done in a way where there's this fantastical element to it, that there is some science that to us humans does seem magical. So I like the link between those things. And also one other scene as well is when, after the trio have raced to this particular destination, and Amy and Rory ask the Doctor, because I don't really think they fully know of the Time War and everything like that, they confront him and say, why is this so big to you? Like, why is this so important? And it's actually revealed that it's not just the fact that there's another Time Lord out there, which is why the Doctor is so excited, but it's a chance to know that if there are more Time Lords out there, then maybe he isn't this total evil guy that he believes himself to be, because he places all the guilt of the Time War on his shoulders. So the idea that not everyone did die through his actions is sort of a chance for retribution for him.
Yeah,
definitely.
Excellent.
Yeah, Archie Colin made a great comment. Just came up then. I think we should have a look at. I have several problems with the cross-gender regeneration. A lot I can trace back to a Heinlein short story. Also, what happens if a pregnant Time Lord (brackets lady) regenerates into a male? Now, that's an interesting question I've never seen asked. But the answer is actually that Time Lords don't get pregnant, isn't it?
Yes.
Not in the way that we understand, because they have.
Actually had. So just something I was going to say to Golden Geek. Obviously, I wanted to wait for you to finish. Just because it's about that. The Time Lord. There's nothing wrong with gender bending Time Lords because they change their cells. I've never really liked that argument, because I don't think that's a good attitude. That just because they're shapeshifters, that means they also have to be gender fluid, because shapeshifter doesn't equal being gender fluid. I mean, look at Mystique from, say, the X-Men, and the Doctor's not even as, strict a shapeshifter as that. Plus, also, like, technically, we all change our cells, and all the cells in our bodies are renewed every 7 years. So it's just a point. Personally, I disagree with that. I think that Time Lord gender bending, it's a bad idea. I mean, for many reasons that have already been pointed out, as Sadako says, it's like he's been a guy 11 times. So obviously, it's just going to jar. It's going to feel like, why is he suddenly a woman now? It's going to be hard to take it as the same character. That's personal. It's why I think and also I think saying they could have just done it in isolation, it never works that way. Because I remember even back in 2013, when all the SJWs were pushing for a female Doctor, every single thing they cited was the Doctor's wife. They were saying, well, they've done that, so that means they have to have a female Doctor. You can never just put it in isolation with these people. They will jump on every single, little thing.
I hadn't really thought about the Doctor's wife as being connected to what then followed, but I mean, you are right. Now that I look at it, I kind of missed it because it's Series 6 and quite early in Series 6. I've not really considered its role. I mean, Neil Gaiman's a naughty boy, but I mean, we weren't aware of that kind of intent in the writing at that time. Not really. Not to any great degree. So that doesn't cloud my memories of it. Whereas, my memories of something like The Fugitive Doctor or The Timeless Children are completely overtaken by knowing the malicious mentality that was behind those episodes. Well, so we found some stuff about this episode, some conflicted ideas, thinking over it that maybe we weren't expecting. Nice. But it was certainly a very well made story. The production values were high. The acting was excellent. The directing and editing was all strong. So I think on those alone it becomes a kind of strong story, and I think the story was strong. So I certainly think maybe it's not an A to me, but it's definitely a B plus.
No, fair enough. I would give it a B minus. There you go. It was
So
okay. Yes.
where would you guys put your scores at?
Golden Age Geek, where would you put yours at?
I would say it is an A plus for me because, as I say, and to Burranjor's point, I understand. We all know we're all on social media. We know how these activists take, the slightest hint of something and take it to the, vast extreme. I understand that, and I completely agree with now what we know of their agenda and everything like that. I do disagree with the whole gender bending nonsense. However, I'm looking at it from the perspective of a creative. I'm trying to find different ways that they could have utilized it for the benefit of the audience and not all the activism. So no, I completely agree with everything that he said there. I just wanted to point out that I think I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Maybe I didn't want to subject myself to the harsh reality of what the BBC were actually doing at the time.
Well, it really wasn't in most of our heads back then.
No, then I was about to say then we were. I don't think anyone was thinking along those lines. It's one of those things that when we go back over and look at it now, it makes sense. That you can see that's where they were going. But at that moment in time when this came out, I don't think anyone actually thought of that at all initially. It's only now we can see where it was going. That So it's fun. But the thing is, that's all I do having this show. It's interesting to have difference in opinions, and we knew this particular series was going to be an interesting and divisive one. And it's great. I like it. I love it. It's great. It's
did we get your score for Doctor's Wife, Burranjor?
No. Sorry, I was just gonna say, yeah. I appreciate that. I hope I wasn't too strong with my things.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I will say, yeah, even back in 2011, even I, didn't know about that. And I mean, I was only in 2013. I mean, Sadako will know exactly what I'm talking about because he was there. It was on the Doctor Who IMDb forums. Me and him both kind of saw up front what was happening then. And that was when the Doctor's Wife really came into play for, the next Doctor should be a woman. And then obviously that led to Missy, and oh god, from there on, that was just. But anyway, what I was saying was in terms of how I'd rate this episode, I think I agree that it would probably be a B plus. That it's overall a really good episode. I mean, you can't really fault it on much, but there are some annoying Neil Gaimanisms and some infantile bits, like having the Doctor call the TARDIS sexy. That drag it down to not quite being, say, a Pyramids of Mars, which everyone, kind of proclaimed it to be at the time,
Did they? It's definitely not Pyramids of Mars.
Well, it was. Everyone was making out that Moffat was a modern day Philip Hinchcliffe, and that some were saying he'd exceeded Philip Hinchcliffe and everything.
Wow.
No.
Must have been something in the water. So after this, we were hit by a two-parter. The Rebel Flesh Almost People.
Yes.
And again, intriguing premise to the whole thing. The TARDIS is caught in a solar tsunami, which forces it to make a crash landing at an old monastery that by the time of the 22nd century has turned into a factory for pumping deadly acid off an island.
As it would. As it would. Yes, why not? Yes.
I've got a lot of questions about that sentence, I have to admit, but maybe
yes.
The crew of the factory use a technology where they use kind of disposable clones. Called doppelgangers, stroke gangers.
Gangers,
to basically give them a body they can control, and if they get caught in the act by the acid, then it's no problem because they don't actually die. Only the clone body dies.
Yep.
And so they've been using this ganger tech. And the Doctor turns up and warns them there's going to be a giant solar flare, but they don't believe it. But then the massive electrical storm knocks everybody out, and it causes something to happen to the gangers, who suddenly become sort of self-aware and self-determining and start planning to replace the humans, basically.
Yes.
And as the Doctor tries to sort of establish some kind of defense against the gangers turning hostile, they then find there's a flesh version of the Doctor.
Indeed.
And
So
there's two versions of, in part two, there's two versions of the Doctor running around. And we're not sure who is the ganger and who isn't. And we're not sure about the loyalties of the ganger Doctor, because attempts by the humans and gangers to get along just break down because they're ultimately unable to fundamentally trust each other.
Yeah.
And the lead ganger goes full psycho.
Just
And
slightly.
basically ends up having to get taken down. And, then one of the gangers also replaces one of the humans and become the dad to his son.
Yeah.
Because he realizes he loves him just as much. And so he's actually going to take that guy's place in his life. I'm not sure if he tells his wife about that.
No,
but then right at the end of the episode, it takes a left turn where the Doctor kind of reveals that he was only doing this because he's really actually investigating these strange readings with Amy.
Right.
The ones which have been telling him that she's both pregnant and not pregnant at the same time.
Yes.
And in a shock reveal at the very end of the episode, the Doctor pushes his sonic screwdriver against Amy's body, pushes the trigger, and she just disappears. She just collapses into a pile of goop because Amy was a flesh clone all along. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Great cliffhanger. I like things like that.
So that's this two-parter. Let's get some views. Who wants to start us off on it?
Well, Burranjor did the last one, so I think it's Goldenagedgeek's turn.
Go for it, Goldenagedgeek.
Well, I've been very optimistic until this point about Series 6, contrary to what many other people on the panel have thought. But I'm going to just come out and say that I absolutely despise these two episodes. I think they're absolutely boring.
Awesome.
And I don't have any investment in any of them. Of course, there are some moments. There are always some moments in any Doctor Who story that always, stand out to me for the most part, even some of the worst episodes. But what I would say, I do like the idea of, the father being replicated and then them arguing over the son because they both have the same feelings because they are essentially duplicates. So I do like that aspect to it. I think that's an interesting thing they did with it. But the rest of it, I just find incredibly boring. And there's not a lot of criticisms I have because I'm just not that invested into it. So even though I can't go on for days and hate on this episode because to me, I'm just very apathetic towards it.
Fair enough. That's
Apathy
I do have a question.
The worst reaction in some ways, isn't it?
And I have a question. Considering the ending, which we talked about with the twist that Amy was a ganger all along, I don't think it's ever explicitly mentioned in future episodes when exactly she was swapped over.
No, I don't think it is.
The Doctor was getting the confusing readings during the Impossible Astronaut, and also when Amy was in the orphanage, she saw the eyes in the wall, which is what happens when she's being looked at in the real reality that she's in. So she was a ganger at the start of the series. So she must have been replaced between Christmas Carol and Impossible Astronaut.
Okay.
Off screen, so to speak. But the fact that she sees the eyes in the first story of the season, there's no doubt about it. She is a ganger at that point.
Right. I'm confused. I never even thought about. I didn't even think it went that far back.
Probably
Shows
the
how much-
best time to snatch her from their perspective when she's just in her home, away from the doctor. I guess.
Yeah, that would make sense. It would make sense really to do that, wouldn't it? But
Mm.
yeah, I know. I never really thought you went that far back. It shows
And,
you how much.
also, Amy and Rory conceived on the night of their honeymoon in the TARDIS. So she had to be. She couldn't have been taken later than 9 months after that. But in reality, she must have been taken pretty soon after that.
Yeah.
Before it was obvious to anybody else that she was pregnant. So probably within sort of 6 weeks or so.
Well, Archie Collins said it must have been sometime just after the wedding, basically.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the Big Bang. Yes.
Yeah. The Big Bang indeed. Indeed. I like that.
I never thought about it like that.
No,
That's
nor
pretty
me.
funny.
It is. Awesome.
So, Burranjor, what was your take on this two-parter?
Well, not to be different, but I have to say I quite like this two-parter. I think it's very classic Who. I like the way it takes kind of time to build up. I think there's a really good core concept in there. I think there's some good moments with Matt Smith. I like when he tricks the ganger by playing the video of the wee kid. I always do like bits where the 11th Doctor gets on well with wee kids. That's quite a nice part of his personality. You see him like jumping up with the. I mean, there are some problems at the bit where he grabs Amy by the throat. I don't know what the hell that was about, and and also there's other stuff as well that is a bit, kind of a bit odd about it. But and I agree with, I think it was what Sadaka wrote there, that I don't like the way the things are so easily dismissed with the sonic screwdriver. It ends up looking a bit cartoony, almost the way like they just go bleh, or that, and that's that. They just go bleh as soon as you click a wee button. But overall, no, I thought this was actually a good solid sci-fi story. Not an all-time classic, but to be honest, like looking back in these actually in this video, I'm starting to think Series 6 actually, I've always thought it was the weakest of the three Matt Smith eras, but looking back on it, it's actually not bad. Like all of these stories so far, like I'd rate them all fairly highly, even ones I've got some issues with. I think, for what they were trying to do, I thought they were quite good, So I'm sorry, I've not got much else to say about it, but I quite liked this episode overall.
There you go.
Well, I enjoyed it a lot more than the series opener because it was a more traditional narrative.
Yeah.
And I felt the points it was making about the disposability of people were really very interesting points, and similar kind of points that you might make if it was a story about robots and AI. It's just flesh robots, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I felt that when they gained self-awareness, their yearning for life was really quite heartbreaking, as was the paranoia that engulfed both sides that made it was impossible for them to trust each other. So it had quite a lot to say about the human condition, and I kind of like science fiction that has that. So that gave it a plus with me. But I also agree with some of the comments from the chat that the tone did feel off in places, and that that final reveal where the Doctor turns Amy into a pile of white goop. It does give you, it does strongly basically how can you look at it any differently than the Doctor killed that ganger?
Well, no, I don't think he did, because I think the whole point was that ganger, it wasn't one that was sentient, it was just a flesh suit. Amy's consciousness was what was inside the ganger, hence why she kept seeing...
It wasn't self-aware. Yeah,
that's why he did it, because that's the point. That's why he tells her, like, we're coming to find you, because he wouldn't say that to a ganger he's about to kill. That's the point. It's like, and that's why she sees like that creepy eye patch lady, because that's where she really is, and occasionally like the illusion breaks and she sees. So that's what it's meant to be. He didn't actually.
But still, you've got to think it through, and in the moment, it does seem kind of weird and shocking, So there's that to it, but it was supposed to be shocking. It was supposed to shock. That was the whole point of it. But how much of his story is all just kind of set up to explain what's going to have to happen in the next story is a valid question.
I think,
Mm.
indeed.
We can kind of say the same about part 8 when we get there. Is a necessary setup for part 13. So I can see why this felt like it was straining a bit too hard to hold itself together in a way. I can see why it didn't appeal to Golden Age Geek.
Yeah.
So definitely has some good stuff in it. I mean, I think I've watched this a little bit more than I've watched Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon. So it's held my attention. It's brought my attention back to rewatch it a few times. I think I maybe rewatched it late last year, the last time I saw this one. So I must feel reasonably okay about it. I'm going to come out with a B.
Interesting. I will also come out with a B. Yes, it was. Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. There are elements I enjoyed on it, and obviously the little twist at the end, which I've now been told was even more of a twist than I thought it was. Was good. So yeah, B, a good solid B for me. Good solid B. Golden Age Geek. I dread to ask.
I mean, I do regret to say, but I'm probably gonna have to give it a D.
But okay, I'm happy for you to give it a D, but can you give us a little bit more indication of why it didn't work? Because I don't quite think we've got to the bottom of it. Why a D? What's the special about that?
I do like the base under siege. A structure of the story is very much reminiscent of those in the classic era, but the group that we find ourselves with, the group that have duplicated themselves through gangers, I just don't find them interesting whatsoever. So it feels like they're communicating with a bunch of nobodies that I don't really care about. As I said, except the father. I thought that there was something there, but everything else and the way that our main characters are communicating with the side cast, it doesn't come across to me as genuine. It feels forced in some ways, and that to me just sort of takes me out the whole thing.
Although work situations is like that, because you don't choose who you're with in a work situation unless you're the actual boss. So there is an element of having to put up with people that you might not actually like, but you have to do it because you have to get on because you're both employed by the same firm. That's part of life. So putting that in a drama, I mean, I kind of find that adds realism in a sense. Because I don't think I ever had a job where I got on with everybody brilliantly. Maybe that's just me. But I think in Finland it's probably not.
No.
Did Burranjor give a score?
No, he hasn't.
Burranjor.
I'd give it probably a B as well. Again, it's not a classic, but it's a decent enough sci-fi episode with an interesting concept. So yeah, it's a solid B, definitely.
There you go. Excellent.
So all of this drama, and all of a sudden, it's a rescue mission, and we now know that Amy's been kidnapped. And the Doctor and Rory respond in the only way they know how, when a good man goes to war.
Oh, indeed. Good man goes to war. Demons run.
The story starts with seeing the Doctor drop into various places to call in favours from all the people who owe him favours.
Yes.
Like the big blue guy and Madame Vastra and others, so he's kind of laying the ground, and then Rory turns up on a cyber ship and gives him an ultimatum to tell him where his wife is, and if his Cybermen sort of give him as they say, don't give me those blank looks, and then just to punctuate the request, the rest of the cyber fleet then blows up right outside the window.
Conveniently, yes.
Yes. Because Doctor sort of saying, I'm only giving you lot this one chance to tell us what you want to know, or you get the same treatment. Yes. So, you could tell that the Doctor's off the leash, big style. And this all leads to attacking this asteroid base called Demon's Run.
Demons
where
Room.
we see that the Church of the Papal Mainframe is assembling a large army, basically to defend Amy and her baby, who they want for their own purposes, from the Doctor.
Yes.
And we see that these troops know that he's coming, and they're getting ready for him. And we see how these two gay soldiers, one of them gets taken off by the headless monks and has his head chopped off.
Nice.
Just to sort of let you know that the headless monks are doing their own thing. And then there's this moment where they're giving a rousing speech to prep the troops to have them ready for when the Doctor arrives. But the Doctor has arrived.
He's already there.
And in a series of brilliant moves, suddenly a whole army of Silurians teleports in and everything else, and the Doctor takes all of these soldiers prisoner.
Yep.
And as they're going through, they find Amy, of course, and her baby, and as they're sort of going through, learning what they can about what these people have been up to, the situation is reversed and it's revealed to have been a trap that the headless monks have set, and the Doctor and co have to fight a desperate battle to see the monks off, during which time Amy, trying to protect her baby, suddenly has this terrible shock when the baby turns out to have been flesh too, and just turns into goop in her arms, leaving her absolutely distraught. But just as it all seems like it's gone horribly wrong, River Song turns up, and the Doctor's angry with her because she didn't come earlier when he asked her to help. But she tells him that she couldn't have come earlier, and then using the TARDIS's translation circuits and a tapestry that was done for Amy by one of the female soldiers, a lady who used to know the Doctor, we discover that Amy's baby's name it actually translates from Melody Pond to River Song.
Yes.
And that River Song is Amy and Rory's baby. Dun, dun, dun!
Oh, yeah.
So, wow. A bit of a roller coaster this episode for certain.
Yeah.
What does everyone make of it?
No,
sorry.
no, go on. You carry on, Burranjor. You crack on. You
Sure?
fire off yours. Yeah, crack on, mate.
Okay, so all I was going to say was I actually really liked this one when it first aired. And overall, I think it does hold up. But again, I'd probably give it an A minor, because it's really good, but there's a few bits I don't like. The good, I think the Paternoster gang who are introduced in this episode are a really good idea. A lot of people don't like them, but I think that they are something Doctor Who can do that other shows can't. And a lot of people often use that to justify stupid stuff, but in this case it does apply, because Doctor Who can bring people from different environments that you'd never ever think. It can bring them together and you don't even realise how weird it is, because that's just the nature of the show. Like, for instance, Jamie and Victoria, well, that was actually quite a weird idea, bringing like a Jacobean, Scotsman and an English girl from Victorian era together, and that's what inspired Outlander. There was enough,
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
that, I think the Paternoster gang are good that way. You've got like an alien clone, a Victorian ninja woman, and a dinosaur woman all living together. So they're a good idea. And also, I think that, the twists are quite good. It's quite sad what happens to Amy in it. But, at the same time, again, knowing that the story arc didn't really go anywhere, that kind of puts it down. And also, there's some of Stephen Moffat's pretentious stuff, like the Good Man Goes to War poem. That really annoys me. That's what Stephen Moffat does all the time, where he throws in these big elaborate speeches that the actors have to deliver. I remember, someone said, if he'd been writing The Green Death, he wouldn't have just had John Pertwee going to the distance. He'd have had someone going to a big speech about, oh, see how the dandy vanishes into the night, how he, like some big 5-minute spiel. So those things annoy me. But overall, I think it's a good episode, to be honest.
And Golden Age Geek, what do you think, mate?
I think this episode was being very ambitious, and in some ways it did work. I loved seeing Rory back in the what is he? Is he the lone centurion? Is that
The
what
lone
sometimes
centurion,
he goes
yes.
by?
Yeah,
I love seeing him in that. Is it? Let
Yeah.
me-
Last during?
Is it the lone?
It's the lone centurion.
Yeah, it's the lone centurion,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, what would you call it? It's an aspect he puts on, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So the
So-
lone centurion. Yeah, carry on.
So I like seeing a continuation of what we saw in the first two-parter of him, learning to come into his strength, and he takes a sort of leadership role because he says to everyone, "Get behind me," and then they all sort of arm themselves. So I think that was really cool, and we can't forget the opening scene of the episode where he threatens the Cybermen. That was a badass moment. There are some criticism that I do have, and that's why I would agree with Burranjor. This is more of an A- episode. I mean, this is not just criticism of this episode, but with what Moffat does throughout his era, which is he makes, and Russell did this as well, is that they made the Doctor too important to the point where, and it kind of resembles what Chibnall did with the Timeless Children, sort of making the Doctor this perfect space Jesus, is when River explains to the Doctor that he's so great and so mighty that every single species that's ever existed has the word Doctor because he has somehow inspired them. I think that sort of aspect that the Doctor is responsible for all of this kind of takes it a bit too far, because
It's the
although
fairy tale myth making of it.
yeah,
isn't
and
it?
that's why sometimes that fairy tale aspect is both a blessing and a curse. Sometimes it can do a lot of good, but other times it can sort of take away from what the Doctor is supposed to be, which is, although he is a alien Time Lord, he is supposed to be pretty average amongst his race and is supposed to have all this due to merit and not because he's somehow granted all of this specialty. But no, I enjoy the ambitious nature of it, and when we see the trio finally come back together, it really does sort of stabilize that family theme of Series 6, which is, Series 5 we were sort of getting them together, but in Series 6 it really does build on the foundations of their relationship as the main trio.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree with that.
Because I really agree, actually, with Golden Age Geek about that, making the Doctor too important. That's an awful trait. But to be fair, I think Russell T did that too. I do not think they should have ever killed off the Time Lords. I think making the Doctor the last Time Lord and not just like a wee renegade and a wee, I think that was awful. Like, if you don't want to use the Time Lords, just don't use them. Don't kill them off, Yeah, exactly. So I think I completely 100% agree with him, but I think that's been a bit of a problem from the start of NuWho. And plus, it's one that you could argue each showrunner's done worse. Russell T made
the
him,
Time War was a device to allow the new series to forge ahead without being bound by anything that had been said in the old.
But just don't use the Time Lords.
That was certainly how it was laid out at the time, and it did kind of make sense because it allowed Russell to say that anything that was contradictory was for Time War. Because
I don't really like that, to be honest.
Before. I mean, no, but I mean that's how that idea sort of started off. I mean, of course, Russell did bring the Time Lords back. It's what Moffat didn't do with them, or that he didn't do that much with them over the 6 years he was showrunner, which is more of a bigger issue, perhaps, in that they haven't been given a better defined role in the show. And I think that's a mistake, personally. But back to this episode. I mean, it certainly was ambitious.
Yeah,
and it's a story that works as long as you don't stop long enough to start picking at the cracks, or it will fall apart quite quickly. And Papalaz made a comment up here that a complicated series can often be puzzling on its first view, but when you see it again, you see how it all fits into place. None
Yeah.
of this makes any more sense from the first time around.
No.
And I think that's fair enough, really. You know,
Yeah.
I think you either go along with the underlying premises that produce this tale, or you don't.
Yeah.
If you go along with it, then it's a good story. If you can't quite buy into it, then it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a how you squint at it story.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I think I'm going to come out with a B.
Fair enough. I will come out with a B plus. I liked a lot of this, but B plus, I think, yeah, B plus fits for me. Burranjor, what's your score?
A minor.
There you go. And Golden Age Geek?
A minus as well.
There you
So
go.
it's a pair of A's and pair of B's. It must be pretty good. Right, so shall we stop the stream now and come back in 6 months?
Yes, because that's what happened with the actual series.
Because that's exactly what we all had to do.
Yes, we all had to have a break.
And well, I mean, it wasn't 6 months, was it? It was. Let me have a quick look here. The Good Man Goes to War went out on 4th of June. The show came back on 27th of August. So it took a break across the summer.
Yeah, summer break.
Was that a good idea?
No, I think it should have
No.
carried on. Yeah,
Did
I
it
think
damage? Did it damage the
really.
show?
well, it didn't damage it as such. But I just don't get the point of having a break in the middle. Why not just carry on?
Same here.
Yeah, no, just carry on. I don't know. It just it wasn't needed. You don't need to put breaks in. You know, you do your series, and that's it. And then if you have a break, you have a break at the end of it, not in the middle, because you can get people drift off and forget about it, especially if they're not 100% invested in it or they are confused by it. That little break could mean they never come back again. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think it was a good idea personally, but there you go. So no, break's a bad idea. Don't have a break in the middle. No.
Well, 13 weeks of Doctor Who is just over 3 months.
Exactly.
So you either start early October, November, December.
Yeah.
Or you start January, February, March.
Yeah.
And either way, you get Doctor Who out before the decent weather. You're not putting Doctor Who out over the summer.
Yeah.
But this time they thought they'd put the first part out in the spring and the second part out in the autumn.
Yeah. No.
So it was definitely an experiment. But asking the audience to put up with a break was to become an increasing theme that fandom was going to have to get used to. And
indeed.
Of course, it wasn't. We'd first been asked to do a series 4.5 and put up with less Doctor Who for that year. But now we had a gap across the summer. And when we came back, it was a very surprisingly titled episode indeed.
Oh well, yes.
Caught people on the hoof somewhat.
Just a bit.
Because we found out we were returning because it was time to Let's Kill Hitler.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes. Oh dear.
Oh God.
Oh no. Let's kill Hitler. What a great way to get.
Was this a cringe idea too far from the start?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm not going to go into the yes. It was too much. Too much.
Okay.
But
It didn't do anything with the idea either. That was another thing that didn't.
You think like, let's kill Hitler. It's going to be a great story.
This starts off with Amy and Rory driving their car around like a mad slalom inside a cornfield.
As you do.
To leave a crop circle to summon the Doctor.
Okay.
Who then turns up and they ask him how he's getting on with looking for their daughter. But then they're met by Amy's mate Mel's, who Mel's is like a really important part of Amy's life, and she got Amy and Rory together in the first place, and she's been a somewhat rebellious friend all through school. So it's a bit surprising when Mel then immediately hijacks the TARDIS.
Yeah, yeah.
And it spins out of control and it crashes into Hitler's office in Berlin in 1938.
Convenient.
And
Yeah.
while they're there, there's this bloke who tries to kill Hitler. And they accidentally stop that happening. And then even weirder, the bloke was not a bloke. The bloke was a robot, which was actually a giant robot with lots of people inside it, shrunk down to a more normal size. So it's a giant robot full of shrunken people who are on a mission to punish criminals across time. And this thing's called the Tesselector.
Yes.
So Hitler shoots at the Tesselector, but hits Mel instead, which kills her. But of course she doesn't die. No, she regenerates instead into River Song.
Hey.
And as River Song turns up, she's hell-bent on killing the Doctor several times, including with deadly poisonous lipstick. And the Tesselector says that River was responsible for the Doctor's death. So she escapes and we have to go and chase after her a bit. But she has successfully poisoned the Doctor. And so the Doctor kind of puts on a kind of song and dance act to kind of persuade River to use her regeneration energy to help him, which she does. But in doing so, she's no longer able to regenerate herself. And that's kind of the end of the episode. A whole lot of weirdness, really, this one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
Who's got an opinion on it?
Oh, okay. Golden Age Geek, let you have a crack at this one first then, mate.
I don't think the worst part about this episode is the whole let's kill Hitler thing, which I do admit it is a very missed opportunity. They could have done a very serious type episode, with this sort of theme and setting and the historical aspect of it. The thing I find that just absolutely ruins it is right from the off with Mel, because if anyone seriously believed that this was just another regular character that was just being introduced, then if you actually thought that, then you're just kind of stupid, because this character's never been mentioned before. If this character was just going to be another one added to the team, then it would have been done some other time. But we have this big mystery set up at the end of the last episode of what's happened to this baby, and then we just get this mysterious character pop up. Everyone knows that there's something there. So that's the thing that mainly kind of irritates me, is that Moffat always does this thing with his writing where he tries to one-up the audience and he throws in a twist when there doesn't be one, so he can just go, aha, I tricked you again.
Yes.
But a lot of times, like,
I'm
it just
going
comes
to
off
duck out
very...
for a moment, fellas.
Okay, mate, carry on. No worries. Carry on, Golden Age.
But most of the time, there's the odd twist that works with Moffat, but most of the time it just becomes extremely hyperbolic, and you just think, come on, man, stop it. There's no need for it.
No need for this. Just leave it now. You've done your bit.
Although there is one scene in this episode, which, as I said before, there's always like one scene that always stands out to me in a Doctor Who episode, and that is when the Doctor when he's been poisoned and he goes back into the TARDIS and he's talking with a voice interface, and the voice interface keeps on giving the same answer. And I'm not Amelia Pond, I'm a voice interface, and as soon as he's about to lose hope, it says fish fingers in custard, which I know is a whole cringy thing in enough of itself, but it's what it symbolizes in the fact that it's the friendship between the Doctor and Amy, the fact that this voice interface reminds him that if he goes, there are going to be people in danger, so he is required. So then we see him stand up, even though he's in extreme pain, and he walks over to the console, and again we get that cue of music, which is very prevalent throughout Series 6, and that always just reestablishes that fantasy tone for me. And that's why that scene works for me in particular.
Excellent. And Burranjor, what's your viewpoints upon this wonderful bit of entertainment that we sat through?
Oh God, This is without doubt the worst Matt Smith episode, in my opinion. It's absolutely atrocious. I mean, everything that's been said is valid here. They take an interesting premise and turn it into a joke. And also the way Nazi Germany's portrayed in it is fucking ridiculous. Like, you can just crash a thing into a building and then push Hitler into a cupboard, and that's that. Nobody comes to check on him. You know, and Hitler himself seems like quite a laid-back guy. He's like, oh, why are you putting me in the cupboard? You know, and then like, River is able to empty like an entire building full of people down to their knickers out into the streets, and again, nobody bothers to come in and check. But I mean, on top of that, I absolutely hate. I mean, this was when I think I lost faith in Stephen Moffat for a bit, because it was obvious he was just making it up as he went along. The fact that Mel's hadn't been in there from the beginning, the fact that she was just shoehorned into this one, and it was like, oh, hey, remember this woman? She's so important to Amy and Rory's history, but they've not mentioned her like at all in the year and a half we've known her. I mean, it was, and also I hated like the Doctor randomly getting changed. Like, I mean, just, and also like the way she kills him with a poison kiss. I mean, can I just say, this is something Stephen Moffat does do badly. He's very fond of these awful, like, femme fatale tropes. And I mean, I hate these, like, femme fatale ones because, I mean, it's not because, I find them threatening or anything like that. It's the opposite. I think they're so cringy. Like, the only way this woman can hurt a man is if she uses, you know, sex against them. It's so cringy. I always feel so sorry for the actresses that have to do it.
I also found it so utterly unconvincing that you had brainwashed assassin River Song who would have a change of heart and give up a regeneration to save the Doctor because he gave a speech. I didn't follow that at all.
I know, it was ridiculous. And also, I will say, like, I think Alex Kingston, that's what I'm saying about, I feel sorry for the actresses that have to do these. She looked a bit embarrassed. She kind of reminded me of, if any of you guys watched Friends, there's one where Monica tries to seduce Chandler and she's all like embarrassed doing it. That's what River Song reminded me of in that episode. No, you just looked very self-conscious, and I don't blame her because it was cringe what she had to do.
Oh, it was. Oh, no, it was not good.
Nazi Germany just seems like a bad setting for a Doctor Who romp.
Oh, God, I know.
Yeah, you know, which is, I mean, I think it's a tone issue, isn't it? If the story was extremely serious in tone, then perhaps it would have been different. But it was the same issue with Spyfall years later. Yeah, very much. I think perhaps this was a lot more egregious, actually.
Yeah, this was not good.
Nazi soldiers just shouldn't be figures of fun.
No.
You know, and I mean that's something that Steven Spielberg has admitted years after the fact with how he portrayed them in the Indiana Jones films. You know, it's not how they should be portrayed. They shouldn't be made light of like that.
Well, see, I didn't mind Indiana Jones because they were still in that one. They were like horrible, but like they made them out to be pathetic. So that's fine. You obviously can make them out they were like. But in Let's Kill Hitler, they are. I mean, as I said, Hitler's like he's a wee laid back, you know, like, oh, don't put me in the cupboard. That's like, it's a what? This guy was a nutcase. Like, you know, he's not some fun, jokey guy.
I mean, is that why World War II started? Because eventually he realised he could actually get out the cupboard. I mean, it's not. I mean, you know, this is the man who took, you know, almost dominated the whole world, but got pushed in a cupboard. Yeah, you could just see that happening.
And he was like, "Shut Hitler, get in there." Okay.
Oh yeah, no problem. It's just it was not it was not a good episode. You know, you don't portray the Germans like that in from World War II. You know, it's just not. You shouldn't really make fun of them because of, as John quite rightly says here, the ultimate in human evil. So a symbol, really. You got to admit it. You can't treat them like that. But hey, you know, I suppose Moffat thought it was going to be fun. I think was perhaps
Well, I'm ready to go for a score on this one.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I'm in a move on mood because it really isn't a great story for me. I coming out for D minus.
Yeah, I'm going to come out with an E. I really did not like this episode.
Like an E is.
Yeah, I really didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it.
You know what? I haven't done an E. Let's do an E. I'm going to go for an E.
Just awful.
E. Right.
Yeah, E. Yeah, but no, it's not a great episode. But Golden Age, go on then, Burranjor. Yours.
Sorry.
No, crack on.
All I was going to say was I'd give it an F minus. I'd give whatever the lowest possible score is.
Oh, I think no could go to F.
Really? Okay. Whatever the lowest one is.
Well, I mean, technically, we've said E's probably E is the lowest you can go.
Fair enough then, E, because it's the only one of the Matt Smith era that I think is as bad as the worst of Russell T Davis's crap, like Love and Monsters, and some of Peter Capaldi era stuff. I mean, Jodie's stuff is still worse, but it's as low as the Matt Smith era ever got, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And Golden Age.
What do you make of it, Golden Age Geek?
I will give it a C minus.
Ah, interesting.
Because I don't by any means love the episode. However, as I say, the ones that... And here's the thing. There's a difference between episodes that I hate and episodes that I don't really have any feelings towards. Like, as I mentioned, the two-parter with the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People, I rank that a lot lower because I don't really have any feelings towards it. Whereas with this episode, there are a lot of moments which I absolutely despise, but my feelings are there for it. So it's in my mind and I'm thinking about it. And I can think back to it. Whereas with that episode, it just completely escapes me.
So
that's my logic behind my ranking.
There you go. Instead of goes asking if you're feeling all right. Just checking, make sure you're okay.
Sorry, guys, I just need to go away for a few minutes. Just carry on. I'll be back.
No problem. We shall push ahead.
On.
Because following the Hitler slaughtering, it was time for some night terrors.
Yes,
which is Mark Gatiss coming back with a script for this series. So there's a little boy called George who's very scared of pretty much everything, especially his wardrobe.
Yes.
But Dr. Amy and Rory make a house call on him. And the doctor talks to his father. And while the doctor's trying to find out what's going on with George, Amy and Rory are in a lift that suddenly opens in a kind of life-size dollhouse.
Yeah.
Where people have been turned into these wooden dolls.
Yeah.
And finding out a little bit more about what's going on, the doctor finds out that George is actually an alien who replaced Alex and Claire's child, because they wanted a child, but they never actually had one. So George used his alien empathy to become their child for them.
Yeah.
But this empathic power of George's, he's having trouble controlling it. So he's kind of locking his fears away in his wardrobe.
Yeah.
So the only way to rescue the people who've been turned into the dolls is for George to undo his mental control by facing his fear. So George faces his fear. The wardrobe is opened, and his Alex properly embraces George as a son, which resolves his internal conflict as a sort of cuckoo child, and then because his insecurities go away, because he feels reassured by the love of Alex, the Doll's House world ceases to exist, and Amy and Rory and everybody else are set free.
Yeah.
Very strange episode.
Very strange. Although, as Time Prophet said, perhaps because it was a rip-off of a Sapphire and Steel story. Which
absolutely, I mean, not bad strange, challenging strange.
Challenging strange indeed.
The show going in a new territory altogether for this episode that it hadn't covered before. A bold script.
Yes, very bold.
But did it work? Let's find out what the guys think.
Yes, Golden Age Geek. What do you reckon then on the this particular one?
I think this episode is underrated in a lot of places. I like the setting of the council estate at night time. That sort of puts you into this sort of secure feeling that what they're going to be facing is very mundane, but it is everything but that. The story concerning the father and the son, and the fact that it's not actually his son like he thought. I think it does, and a lot of fiction does this. It likes to portray the message that it doesn't necessarily matter where you come from. It's the fact of who you become and who you find yourself with, and you have to make a family out of that. So it's always not, your family isn't just like who you're landed with, but also who you come to grow with as a person. So I do totally respect
that's a very modern post-nuclear family message, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that the child actor, I mean, he is a child actor, so sort of things that come with that, everyone can imagine. But I think in the moments where he's sitting in the dark in silence, it does come off as being extremely creepy. So that was done really well. And of course, this episode is supposed to be a very creepy, horror type episode. And I think how they did that was really good. When you see Amy getting transformed into that doll and all the hair coming out of her, and that's just absolutely, that's just horrifying. It reminds me of the Empty Child episode where you see the gas mask coming out of Dr. Constantine.
I see. I agree with that. Yeah, nice. Yeah, you're right. It's scary, very sinister.
And although they made another interesting comment from Papalaz, which I'd like to bring up.
Yeah.
I've got to scroll down here. It's been busy while I've been on the other screen.
Yes, it has.
Where did we get to? Yes, I'm not convinced Doctor Who works as Monster of a Week at all. Every story ends up 5-10 minutes introducing mystery, 30 minutes of a single concept monster with no dialogue, 5-10 minutes it's defeated. I think this is a very valid criticism of NuWho.
Yes.
Because I think, the ability of the show to get inside your head is distinctly limited when it's all one and done in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Because with classic Who, even if this was a two-parter, the formula was different, and you ideally would have a cliffhanger where the threat would be seemingly omnipotent, ready for the resolution in the next week. The same as Moffat did with Empty Child, Dr. Dances.
Yeah.
The gas mask cliffhanger in Empty Child works so well because it makes the situation seem so overpowering.
Yeah.
Which is what a good cliffhanger should do. But when you don't have a cliffhanger, you don't have that week to think about the monster, to think about the threat, to think about the situation. So you're less invested in it, and the resolution is less satisfying. I think this is a big issue with NuWho one and done in 1 week stories.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely does limit their ability to make impacts. And it's interesting, but it seems like the NuWho stories that make the bigger impacts are the two-parters.
Yeah. Funny that, isn't it?
Overall, not exclusively, but pretty much.
Yeah.
Especially in RTD's eras, the single episodes with fillers to fill in the time for the exciting two-parters that you shouldn't miss. It was kind of like how that was being presented. Well, not every Doctor Who story should be 6 episodes.
That's a lot of investment in time.
But of course, NuWho only tried to do a 3-part episode once in series 10.
No, they tried. Last of the Time Lords. That was a 3-parter as well.
I suppose it was, wasn't it? I mean, there's only a couple of times they've tried to do the equivalent of an old 6-parter. But the 6-parters, of course, Shada failed to be produced. Yeah. So they sort of finished from the start of the 80s, we only saw one of them in the 80s. But still, the lack of a cliffhanger limits the show's power to impact the mind. Yeah, it does. On the other hand, it's squaring that against the risk of people not being bothered enough to tune in for the end of it. So there's a swings and roundabouts there. But with this story itself, it requires you to go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's a fairy tale thinking, because you have to imagine that this alien's mind is powerful enough to conjure an entire reality, changing people into wooden dolls and trapping them in doll's house dimensions. So if you don't find that premise convincing, then the story isn't really built on anything that you can believe in. But if you go along with the premise, then the story works quite effectively.
Yeah.
So it really depends on whether the underlying sort of fairy tale-ness of it works. I have to say it doesn't for me. But I do like the whole way the episode is done. So it gets some pluses for me from it being done in an imaginative way and being quite genuinely creepy in some of the scenes.
Absolutely.
So it definitely gets pluses for that, but it gets a minus for me from the credibility of the plot. I mean, for me, I might as well just give it my score now. I think I'm going to go with a B- for this one. But let's see what the other guys make of it.
Goldenagedgeek, what do you want to give it?
I will give it an A-.
Fair enough. And Burranjor?
Well, I mean, I've not actually said what I thought of the
No,
episode.
crack on.
It's me. That's my fault.
No,
Yeah,
because there's not really much to say to us that hasn't been said, and I kind of agree. It's not a spectacular episode, but I think it's one that maybe improves on rewatch, because I remember the first time I saw it, I barely noticed anything in it. I switched off, but when I actually watched it on the DVD, I thought that's quite a good one. I mean, even now though, I'm kind of struggling to remember that many moments, but I remember it wasn't a bad. Like, it was quite creepy and atmospheric in places. And overall, the story kind of held together. I mean, to be honest, I think it kind of suffers from coming after Let's Kill Hitler. I mean, as Sadako said, that puts such a bad taste in your mouth that it's unless the next one's bloody Genesis of the Daleks, you're maybe going to be more looking for plot holes or something,
Yeah.
I'd probably give it about a B- as well. It's a good story, not a classic, but a fairly good, creepy, interesting adventure, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I give it a B, because it is nice and creepy, but it's just that's about as level I could get it. It couldn't get up to an A for me, but I did like it because it was quite creepy. So there you go, and we're off to the next wonderful story, which is of course.
That's what you've got to be a girl, and you've got to wait around for the next one, because of course it's all about the girl who waited.
Of course, indeed.
Which, a high sci-fi concept episode, this one, because it deals with two different time streams 36 years apart.
Yes.
So the Doctor takes Amy and Rory to the planet Appalachia. I think it's for a holiday kind of thing.
Yeah, it's their holiday.
But they get there and find out the whole planet's under quarantine because there's been a deadly plague.
Yeah, Chen 7 it's called the plague.
And there's basically two doors that lead to two different time streams. One of them is for people that are infected with the plague, and the other is for people who aren't. The Doctor and Rory go through the people who aren't door, but Amy goes through the one for the people who are. And that puts her into this alternate dimension where she then spends the next 36 years dodging robots trying to give her an injection. But if they actually give it to her, will kill her because she's not an Appalachian. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Rory have to find out where Amy is and how to get to her. But when they do get there, they realise that saving Amy means undoing this alternate timeline, which means erasing older Amy.
Yeah,
And older Amy's not too keen on that.
clearly not.
So ultimately, the Doctor and Rory have to make the decision to erase older Amy to get their Amy back. And then because it's impossible to take them with them because the TARDIS would never tolerate the paradox. This alternate timeline has to end. It's the only way that their Amy can be saved.
Yeah.
So it's all about sacrifice and loss and the ethics of ending a life.
Indeed.
And the pathos and tragedy of waiting years and years and years to be rescued on your own, and the impact that has on someone.
Yes, indeed.
So a lot of emotion, a lot of heartstrings being pulled here, and a lot of serious dilemmas that just don't have good answers.
Yeah.
Therefore creates there's a challenging problem to be resolved. I'm rather fond of this story because I like time travel stories that use time travel well and aren't just some kind of Groundhog Day repeat thing, but actually two different timelines is always a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
At least to me.
Yeah.
So it got a good tick off that one for me straight away. And, overall, I was rather pleased with it. But I'd like to know what other people thought. So who wants to give their view first?
Well, let's go Burranjor. Go Burranjor first this time.
All right, okay, thanks. Well, I mean, to be honest, this is by far and away the best episode of the season. And it's one of, I'd say, the top 3 Matt Smith episodes, to be honest, which would put it kind of in the top 3 of NuWho. But no, I mean, it's an absolutely wonderful story. I mean, it's really hard to fault it on anything, to be honest. I mean, I think even like the old, like in terms of production values, it's really well done. And but I mean, I like the kind of idea of the story that it's quite unusual that way. It's like the older Amy doesn't want her life undone, even though it's been a horrible life where she's been on the run all the time. She's been on her own. I mean, it's because there's that kind of idea. It's definitely one that I think we can all kind of relate to, that as like you can't just live off of your good experiences, if you know what I mean. Your bad experiences, you might want to erase them, but they kind of make you who you are as well. So it's like, even though her life has been horrible here, she doesn't want that gone, because then that would mean that she's she's no longer her. She doesn't exist. So I think that in itself is really quite an interesting concept. And I also love the way they have the Doctor be quite manipulative. I mean, he's almost Sylvester McCoy levels of manipulative and ruthless at the end of this one. I mean, that was really quite shocking. And the fact that it was done with Matt Smith, who was like, the kind of supposedly jokey, cute Doctor, to do it. But at the same time, I think it worked quite well, because everyone had always pointed out that he was very, like, Patrick.
Well, if you want to make the Doctor deadly serious or just deadly, make it a threat to time.
Yeah, absolutely.
One time he will be absolutely ruthless.
Also, because as you say, sometimes there's no easy answers. So in order to get out of the situation, because like in the long run, it's better if Amy doesn't end up that way. So he just has to, like, kind of go straight to it, and as horrible as it is. And as I said, that was very like Patrick Troughton, who, much like Matt Smith, a lot of people thought was this kind of jokey, funny Doctor, but who then could actually be surprisingly ruthless. And so I think that and Sylvester McCoy obviously embodied that too. So I think Matt Smith really kept that tradition well.
Karen Gillan made a very good job of being deadly Amy, didn't she, with a samurai sword?
Oh yeah,
and the makeup also worked really well. So she was able to portray herself as middle-aged really effectively. It worked very well.
the makeup worked because it wasn't too elaborate. Like there's so many other shows where someone's meant to be, like old, and they'll go so over the top. They'll give them like the most ridiculous grey hair and Klingon style wrinkles in their forehead, whereas they just made her a bit like heavier. They just made her a bit. It was a realistic kind of aging, so it did work really well.
Yeah. Awesome. So, what do you think, Golden Age Geek?
Well, I agree with what has mostly been said by everyone else on this discussion of this episode. I like the idea of exploring isolation and what it does to a person and how they become extremely desperate for any sort of human interaction. And again, this is an episode which puts Rory in the sort of leadership position because the Doctor is just back in the TARDIS and Rory's the one that actually has to carry out all of the things that are going to lead them to Amy and saving Amy. And the Doctor just outright puts Rory in the leadership position of saying, right, you're the one who can make the decision now. And he grabs his hand, he puts it on the TARDIS door, he says, right, you can open it and let older Amy in, or you can keep it shut. And we have like a 5-minute exchange where older Amy she goes through a process of first being absolutely shocked that Rory would do this, but then she comes to understand why. And then we sort of see her accepting that. And then with her acceptance comes the anger because she knows she's going to have to meet her end very soon. So I thought that was a very powerful scene. And it does. And because of the chemistry between the two actors, it really does make you feel very sad because, as I say, Series 6 really puts a focus on the family element, and just like with the last episode, which really put that on display. So you really are invested in this whole family dynamic, and we've had loads of highs and lows with this series of them being separated, then they've come back together, and now, once again, we have to have a tragic ending. Yeah.
It's this particular episode, the acting skills are well and truly on display. It's the way that it's acted. It's so powerful. It's I can't fault this episode. I really can't. No way can I fault this episode in anything, in any way or shape or form. It's just a great. It's one of those ones that goes into what me and John call the if you want to introduce people to Doctor Who kind of episodes.
I suppose it is, isn't it? It's on that level. Yeah,
it's on that level. It's like. This is when Who is good. When you've got the alternate timelines, the way it deals with everything, I just think it's a really good episode. I really do. I absolutely love this episode. Absolutely love it.
Well, let's do some scores. I'm going to come out with a flat A.
I'm going to come out with an A+ because I absolutely love this one. Absolutely love it. Burranjor?
A+, that whatever the highest is, as soon as A+.
Yeah.
It's as good as Let's Kill Hitler is shit, put it that way, which is saying a lot.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
It kind of makes up for that.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, Golden Age Geek, or as
I will, yeah.
Tom probably has been calling you Golden Age Greek for ages.
My backstory's been rewritten as well.
Yeah, completely.
Kipnell's not the only one who can do that. I'm now Greek.
Yeah, you're now Greek. Congratulations.
I would have thought my name was more confusing, to be honest. The two of them.
Sorry, Golden Age, you're going to actually just score.
I will give this an A. I won't give it an A+ because although I think it's very close to that, some other episodes stick with me a lot more. But by no means is there anything I can criticize about this episode.
No, absolutely.
It's great the show pulled out a banger because it needed one.
It needed one after that Hitler thing, yeah.
but did the next week follow on? Because straight after Waiting for Girls, we then developed a God complex.
Indeed, bit of a yes.
And Toby Whithouse writing for the show on this one. So the TARDIS lands in what appears to be a 1980s hotel.
Yep.
But it's a very strange hotel because its layout is completely infinite.
Yes,
And they soon lose track of where they put the TARDIS.
as you
And
would.
they discover that there are some other humans in the hotel and an alien as well. But what happens is that one by one, each of these people are finding a room with their number on it.
Yep.
And when they look into the room, something happens to them and they die soon afterwards.
Yes.
Often, seemingly of some kind of terror.
Yes.
And there's an alien monster stalking the corridors, which is eating up this energy. So the Doctor gets very close to one of the people in the hotel, a girl called Rita, and so close that it seems like he would like her to travel with him.
Yeah.
And he's telling Rita and Amy too, but they have to have faith in that they'll get out of the situation.
Yeah.
But as the story unfolds, the Doctor realizes that it's actually faith that the creature is manipulating and using.
Indeed, it is.
Because it's inducing faith in people's minds so that they worship it. And when they worship it completely, it consumes them.
Yeah. Consumes their energy. Yeah.
So it's not faith that people need. It's a lack of faith. They need to destroy their faith. But it's too late to save Rita. But ultimately, Dr. Amy and Rory do manage to break through into the real heart of what's actually a prison spaceship, where they find this ancient creature that the Doctor says must be related to the Naimon. And they help it to die, and it allows them to leave the prison.
Yes. Very good. Interesting story idea about actually, for once, not being about having faith, but the complete opposite, which is a very interesting way to deal with things. And the fact that the rooms, apparently, if I remember correctly, when you open the room door, it shows your greatest fear and frightens you into, and it says praise him. And that's the second when the monster takes over and devours your energy. Very interesting idea. Interesting idea about faith and lack of faith.
And just being stalked along an infinite hotel.
Yes.
And
it's not good.
The inevitability of a feeling of being trapped by it all. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in this story.
Yeah, there is. There's lots of interesting things. Yeah, I kind of like this.
Let's see if the guys agree. Isn't it Golden Age Geek's turn?
Yes, it is. Yes.
To crack in first. So what have you got to say?
This episode, I do have some criticisms of it, and most of the criticisms come because of further episodes. So, for example, we do get a scene in the episode where we see the Doctor have his own room, which possesses his greatest fear, and he looks into it, but we don't get to see what it is. Now, I think that's how they should have left it, but Moffat, he can't leave anything alone. He has to go back. So when we see the 11th Doctor's final episode, we actually get a flashback to that episode, and it's revealed that his greatest fear is the crack in the wall, which is absolutely pathetic.
Yeah.
But, again, Moffat trying to make all of his writing the most important thing that's ever been created. So that is one criticism I do have of it. But as I say, it's not really in isolation of the episode itself. It's to do with the further episodes. And also, Moffat does this with the 12th Doctor and Clara. We have numerous points where the companions are supposed to leave. So, for example, you have Clara in Series 8 and Series 9, and it keeps on going and going. And like with Amy and Rory in this episode, this was supposed to be their departure episode, but then they get brought back again, only to have another opportunity to leave, where they finally do.
Yes, of course, because this does have this strange part to the ending where the Doctor sort of bundles them off to a house to go live in, doesn't he? He sort of says, it's too dangerous, you travelling with me. I won't have it. I won't be responsible for you dying.
Yeah.
Which is totally unconvincing and doesn't last very long. But, I mean, it's a strange kind of diversion, isn't it? You know, from I don't know if Amy and Roy were actually meant to leave in this episode and that plan didn't go through, or if this was trying to find a way to split them up for an episode story. I don't know what the thinking was behind it, but it wasn't terribly convincing that was going to last. Burranjor, what did you make about the Gold Complex?
Well, I thought it was a brilliant story. It's another one, to be honest, that I'd give an A to. Maybe not an A plus, but I thought it was a great story all around. It was an interesting concept. It was very atmospheric and creepy. I also really liked Rita. I thought she was absolutely brilliant. I mean, the actress that plays her is really good. It's a shame she's not in more. I mean, if I'd cast her in anything if I was doing a TV show. But a part of me does wonder if maybe they wanted Amy and Rory out and they maybe wanted Rita to take over. I mean, personally, I'd have loved for a series with Rita as the companion. I would have loved that. Say, I think we were cheated out of a Matt Smith series, a full series with Rita in 2012, and then a full series with Clara in 2013. That would have been better for me. But yeah, I do agree with what some people have said here. I mean, I certainly agree with what Goldenagedgeek did. It's so much, creepier when you don't know what the Doctor's fear is. But the idea that it's just the latest threat he's faced is
there's definitely something the story did, didn't it? Take the Doctor right outside his comfort zone, and it makes the audience uncomfortable when we can see that the Doctor's out of his depth.
Yeah, absolutely. So another criticism that I think has been raised in the comments here is that it does rip off just a tiny bit at the end, the Curse of Fenric, but it doesn't do it anywhere near as well. I mean, when he tries to make Ace lose her faith in her, that is so brutal and so memorable. Whereas Matt Smith, it's kind of lame. It's like, oh, I'm just, not very good. I'm just a guy in a box, blah, blah. It's like, it's a bit of a mamby-pamby. And it's like, don't try and repeat that if you can't do it as well as, the Sylvester McCoy bit. But other than that, though, it's a really good episode, I think.
He didn't exactly go around calling Amy an emotional cripple, did he?
No.
No, not really, no.
Oh, you narcissistic emotional cripple. Yes. I don't know why I bother with you.
It could bring up she cheated on her husband, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Could have.
That's true.
Oh, brilliant.
Sharp comment from the Time Prophet there about the Doctor's nightmare room. The Doctor should have opened the door and Mel should have appeared.
What, Mel? There's two rubbish Mel.
Which one? Yeah.
Just Mel.
Or Mel with a pond Mel. We're not sure.
Just Mel will do. So we go for the scores then, gentlemen?
Well, I mean, Burranjor, you've already gone for an A, haven't you?
Yeah, A for me.
That's fair enough.
I also think it's a great story. I'm going to go for an A too.
I'm going to make it an A as well. And Goldenagedgeek.
I will give it an A as well.
Oh, so bit of an embarrassment of riches at the top end of Series 6.
Yes.
Did it follow on into a hat trick? Well, maybe not, because that winning streak might be about to face its closing time.
Oh, look at him. He's done it again. Another great link. The right to him gets him every time.
This is a Gareth Roberts story. And I do like Gareth Roberts as a writer.
Same here.
But I think this might have been the Gareth Roberts story we didn't actually need, because I don't like this episode at all. Basically, the Doctor's on his own, going a bit nuts, and he knows that his rendezvous at Lake Silencio is getting close. Yep. And he's been spending 200 years away from Amy and Rory, doing his own thing. So this is very much now the Doctor that we saw at the very start of the series. The end is nigh, basically. He decides he's just going to pop in on Craig and Sophie from last year. With the lodger, and they've now, of course, they've had a baby, Alfie. So the whole story is kind of about Craig trying to cope with being a dad because Sophie's gone away for the weekend, and the Doctor hooks up with him, and it all goes crazy. And there's a buried Cyberman spaceship under a department store, and it's trying to wake up the Cybermen. And during investigating this, Craig, the baby, and the Doctor end up in the Cyberman spaceship, and Craig is converted into a Cyberman. But then the Doctor calls out to him to remember his love for his son, and the love of a father defeats the cyber conversion process. Craig breaks out. They escape the Cyberman spaceship, but it blows up, and that's kind of the end of that. And then the Doctor puts on his Stetson hat, talks to some kids, and dematerializes on his way to Lake Silencio. And then at the very end of the story, we have River Song being confronted and kidnapped, ready to be wired into a spacesuit.
Indeed.
Okay. Who wants to pick at this?
Well, it's Burranjor's turn this time.
Okay, well, I mean, where do I begin? This one is crap. I mean, again, I like Gareth Roberts too as a writer, but that's his worst script. It's bogging, as they say. I mean, there's so much of it that's rubbish. To start with, as we've been over, the whole Doctor going on a goodbye tour is something we've had before. And
a 200-year goodbye tour.
I know. I mean, Jesus Christ. I will say, though, I think it's Matt Smith's Doctor comes over a lot better than David Tennant. Even though he's facing actual death, he's still not as much a whiny prick as David Tennant was facing regeneration. So I'll give it that. It does that bit at least a bit better, but it's still more the same. The Cybermen are awful in it. I mean, there's no explanation for them. It doesn't really play on anything that makes them scary. And oh God, James Corden
Although
at the
the
end.
Cybermats are fun.
They're okay.
The Cybermats at least are fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've never really been that keen on the Cybermats, to be honest. I always thought they were kind of stupid. Like in Tomb of the Cybermen with those wee eyes, they're kind of laughable, really, even in that story, you know?
Yeah, fair point.
But I mean, also James Corden, his line at the end, "I blew the Cybermen up with love." I mean, fucking hell, that's got to be one of the lamest. Why would the Cybermen be beat because a guy loves his son? I mean, haven't they converted planets? Wouldn't they have converted millions of guys and women who, love their sons, their daughters, their partners?
Stop using logic.
Well, this story just really badly undermined the Cybermen. It's a story written at the Cybermen's expense.
Yeah, it doesn't make it. No, really, no.
I blew them up with love. I mean, fucking hell! I wanted to punch him with that, and that was before we knew what a dick he was. So.
All those thousands of fights that the Cybermen had, and all you had to do was just love them, and they would have exploded. Yay!
God, it's awful, dreadful story all around them. Sorry, but it is.
Oh, it's not good. It's not good. And having James Corden in it rubbed me up the wrong way for a start. So
I hate to say, I liked his first episode from the previous season, but no, that one wasn't good.
No. But no, I mean, come on.
It wasn't a character that needed to come back.
No, it really was not.
And having a second guest appearance by James Corden didn't make Doctor Who any better off either.
No.
So, it's just really not great. Golden Age Geek, are you going to blow us away and tell us the story was brilliant?
No, I don't think it. I don't think objectively it's in.
No. Awesome. Carry on, mate.
I would say it's good for sort of, if you want a light-hearted episode similar to Love and Monsters. It's not anything that's gonna change your view on reality in any way. It's not something that's going to, inspire you. But I would say it's a bit of dumb fun. I can see the appeal that a lot of normies would have had with it at the time. I do agree with the whole, blowing up the Cybermen with love. I think there was if they had it in a different story, I feel like they could have used that a lot better in how to, because Cybermen are lack of emotions. They're all, the same sort of hive mind. So have something that is completely strongly opposed to it. I think that could have been something that they could have utilized a lot better in a different episode.
Wouldn't this have been so much better if it was some sort of follow-up to the Silence?
Yeah.
Because after all, the Silence parked their time ship above Craig's flat the year before.
Yes, he did.
What if the Silence had some purpose to come back for Alfie?
Possible. That would have been something into it.
And that could have told us more about them and more about the season's threat, and been more of an opener for the finale. Which, you know, with this episode, which really seemed like a waste of an episode, we've only got next week to wrap everything up. So this time the show is trying to do a 1-part finale, not a 2-part finale.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, was the whole focus of this episode just in the wrong place? Even accepted the premise that it was going to be about Craig and Alfie. Was this just the wrong enemy to use when there should have been something else that would have served the series better? Because it certainly didn't serve the Cybermen well.
Oh, it didn't do the Cybermen any favours at all, did it?
Oh no, this.
It's,
I mean, they'd already had it bad. I agree with what a lot of people say. It was terrible having them get killed off so easily in the opening of Let's Kill Hitler. And I mean, because I remember it was funny because when it was announced the Daleks wouldn't be coming back this year, everyone thought, oh, maybe the Cybermen will get a shot in the sun. It's like, oh, no,
no, they're not going to do that.
Papalazzi put his finger right on it. This is a problem with Cybermen are just a joke and there's no dialogue or anything. It makes it into a story.
No, they're just there for... They're just there. Unbelievable. No, I think it didn't do the Cybermen any good. This was not good. And considering we knew it was coming to, you know, there's only one more left. Could have been a better story.
Let's use our time efficiently because we're at 2 hours 18.
Yes, we are.
And move along with a quick score for this.
Yes.
Oh, E.
E.
I'm going to give it a D- only because I don't think it's quite as bad as Let's Kill Hitler, but it's about as bad as
not quite as bad as Let's Kill Hitler. Yeah.
Yeah,
please don't sacrifice me. I'm going to give this a C+. What
the hell?
Why the C+? What's at least partly redeeming?
I just think it's a bit of dumb fun, and I can always laugh at it. It's kind of so bad that it's actually enjoyable in some places.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that.
It's so good. It's so bad. It's good ones.
Good. Well, yes.
Fine.
I've got plenty of films I like to watch.
As that goes, fine.
Yeah.
So, well, you know, a strange way to finish off a season of Doctor Who because we end with a wedding of River Song.
Yes, odd way of doing it, but there you go.
So, this story opens in a kind of confused version of London where different periods of history are all existing compressed together. And there's petrodactyls in the skies of the park and balloons in the air and Roman centurions in chariots on the streets. You know, and if something's gone very wrong with reality itself.
Indeed.
And Winston Churchill, who's leader of the Roman Empire, asks to see the Prophet, I think he's called, which turns out to be a very bearded doctor. And the doctor then proceeds to tell Winston a story about how a woman broke time.
Right.
So while that sort of sub-story is going on and the Doctor and Winston Churchill are also being hunted by the Silence, in a slightly different version of that reality, Amy and Rory are kind of working with Madame Kavarian to get the Doctor, only they're not really working with Madame Kavarian, but they want to sort of get the Doctor to explain what's going on, and the Doctor explains that it's all about River Song.
Right.
Because when the universe, when she should have shot him, instead she didn't shoot him, and by doing so, the universe broke a track because the Doctor's fixed death didn't happen, and that's why time is a mess. And the only way to restart time again is for the Doctor and River to kiss, which will restart time. And that happens, and the Doctor is shot, but it turns out, no, it wasn't the Doctor after all, because the Doctor basically used the Tesselector to get shot instead of him. So it's the Tesselector who got killed, and that resolves all the paradoxes and puts time back on its proper track. The end.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you can see, I'm confused just trying to give an overview of this story.
You can tell by the just silence and yeah. We're not very impressed.
And there's a pyramid with leaky silence and stuff as well.
Yeah, it's really it's a mess. It's such a mess. It's just like, it's like, okay, we've got all these things that plot lines.
It's the fairy tale thinking again. Do we think that the Doctor snogging with a song will fix time?
I mean, come on, really? A kiss? Really? Come on. No, it's just it was just this is Moffat with all these lines of stuff, and he's got to tie them all up. So instead of making it sensible, it's just a kiss. It's this, it's that. That makes it. It was awful.
It's crap mills and boons in space. Let's be honest.
Back to my comment about the Lodger being a wasted episode the week before.
Yes, see, because it could have set things up better, but he didn't do that. He just left it to the last one and then made an awful mess of it. It was not enjoyable. And even at the end, I sat there thinking. I remember sitting there when I first watched it, going, "What happened again?" Because it's like. No, no. No.
My mum said about it. I was living at home when I watched it. I remember my mum said when she saw cheesy crap with the Doctor and River that she thought Stephen Moffat was like a fucking 40-year-old woman writing crappy romance novels. He's a middle-aged woman. That's what she said.
Barbara Cartland had been reincarnated as.
That's so funny. Because the thing is, it's kind of true about although it shows you that it's not just middle-aged women, middle-aged men write those kind of things because it's all men that have brought that into Doctor Who. You know.
Oh, jeez. No, this was not the ending. I just could. As I said at the end, I just sat there thinking, well, what was the point? And it kind of made a mockery of everything that come before it as well, because none of it really made any sense. It was like, we got to do it. Here's the answer. You know, it's very much like, Star Trek Discovery and things like that, where they've forgotten about a plot line and then remembered it, and then it's just dismissed in a one line or a stupid little. And it just didn't sit right with me. Really didn't sit right with me. But there you go.
Don't forget the very last scene where the Doctor goes to visit the disembodied head of Dorian, and he tells him it's all about Doctor Who.
Oh God!
You know?
Come on, really? Oh no!
I think that wouldn't be the last time he reused that joke. He did that joke all the fucking time. Doctor Who, Doctor Who.
I'm not hearing Golden Age Geek's view of Reading River song yet. Are you going to have a different view than us because we don't seem to think very much of it?
No, you'll be glad to hear that we have a very similar view of this episode. I think that it is easily comparable to fecal matter. It is absolutely just atrocious.
Brilliant. I don't think
Could we blame any member of the general television viewing public for watching this and just not having a clue what it was trying to say?
Yeah.
No. Well, sorry, Karen.
No,
I was going to say I didn't even think it was so complex. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward story of just, a thing has to happen or the universe will crumble. It was just a stupid story, and it was really mawkish. I mean, what Golden Age Geek said earlier, again, about Moffat God-moding the Doctor, I think that's completely true. And that one where, remember, River contacts everyone in the universe who says they want to help the Doctor, that has got to be one of the worst moments for that, like, making the Doctor the pivot of all existence I've ever seen, to be honest.
No offense, we've watched Doctor Who enough to know there's a lot of people who really don't like him. So, and then all of a sudden, I mean, yeah, the Daleks might have a bit of a say. It's just like, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, he's such a wonderful thing. No, I don't buy it either. I don't buy that at all. Oh, God. I really didn't enjoy this one, did I?
Also, the silence.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we're all heading towards giving this a low score.
Oh yeah,
and does the failure of the season finale completely wreck any merit in the idea of doing a series where the mystery was about the Doctor getting killed, which we said at the start of the live stream didn't seem like a great plan to us? I mean, did the whole premise of Series 6 fail?
Yeah. To be fair, I think it did, because the ending ruined it. It could have been done better, but it just wasn't. It was just a mess. And it did kind of take the edge off the series to me. But, that's my humble opinion.
I would agree, because one other thing I was going to say about why I dislike this episode is Madame Kavarian and the Silence are so lame in it. They've been built up as this big masterminds, but they do nothing. I mean, Madame Kavarian, she ends up being a little coward, which could work if they'd given her something beforehand. But basically, the villains were nothing. Their motives still aren't explained throughout this season. They won't be explained for another 2 years until it's an offhand comment. And yeah, it undermines like the first two-parter, certainly, because you think this is going to go nowhere. It's just going to become a nonsensical, stupid storyline. So yeah, I would agree. It undermines parts of the season, not all of it.
No,
parts of the season.
Yeah, I agree.
There are certainly the main plot of Series 6.
Yeah, it didn't go well.
Arc, but it's not a success this year.
No,
that seems to be how we feel about it. Let's do some scores, because we've still got one to go.
Yes.
So let's straight out the box. I'll give it an E.
E.
An E+, because it's still not quite as bad as Let's Kill Hitler. But it's in the bottom. It's in the bottom 3 Matt Smith episodes. In fact, I struggled to. I think it might be the bottom 2, because I think Let's Kill Hitler is the only one worse than Wedding of Ever Song, to be honest.
Yeah, it's
So to wind 2011 up, we have.
Hold on, you forgot to ask Goldenagedgeek. Well, he scored it.
You haven't got his score yet. I'm sorry, mate. God.
Yes, go on, Goldenagedgeek.
I'll give it an E as well.
There we are. Right. E.
Yeah, we didn't like that, did we? Get in the bin.
All right, so to finish 2011 up, of course, on Christmas Day, we had Moffat's script for Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. So this is all set just before World War II, I think.
Yeah.
And the Doctor.
Oh no, it's Christmas Eve 1941, so we're in the war.
No, it starts a bit earlier.
Oh yes, of course it does.
Sorry,
yes.
So the Doctor's sort of stopping this alien spaceship doing something, so he blows it up. But in doing so, he crash lands on Earth wearing a backwards spacesuit. And he's helped by a lady called Madge Arwell. And he gets back to the TARDIS and toodles off. But 3 years later, Madge's husband, Reg, disappears on a bombing mission in World War II. But she doesn't want to tell her kids this because it's Christmas coming up. So they leave London to stay at a house in Dorset. But the Doctor knows this, so he turns up and is trying to be sort of a helpful caretaker to sort of make life a bit better because he feels sorry for the kids. But then Cyril is lured through a portal to a winter planet. And then looking for him, the Doctor and Lily, and then later on Madge also come through. And it's this portal to this sort of planet in the future where there's a bunch of people who are going to use machinery to cut down trees, which is a bad thing, really, because the trees are alive on this planet. Yeah. And Cyril's been lured there by these wooden entities that want to make him into their king. Of course. And if they make him into the king, the souls of the trees can escape being cut down by the loggers. But then when Madge turns up, she takes the place of Cyril and she acts as their pilot. So the souls of the trees leave, and then when she's doing that, they go back, and then by doing that, somehow I don't quite remember how it quite works, but it allows her husband to find his way home as well, and they're all reunited. Happy Christmas.
Yeah. Yes. Well,
This is another one of those Christmas specials that people don't like to really talk about.
no, it's just okay. Right. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's ripping off its title, at least, from C.S. Lewis.
Well, absolutely, it is.
And it's trying to riff on a kind of Narnia fantasy fairy Christmas portal theme. And it was shown on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And 10.77 million people watched it.
Yeah, because it was on Christmas Day. Yeah.
I do feel totally underwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Again, it's the fairy tale stuff.
Yeah.
The souls of trees. This
yeah.
isn't exactly what I would normally consider a Doctor Who concept.
No. No. No, it's no. I mean the bit with the Lancaster landing on the lawn and stuff like that. No, I didn't enjoy this. It's not very
well,
good.
you can get swept up in the emotion of a family reunited for Christmas, but yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's a big stretch to a reason. It just as well if you've had a few glasses of Christmas sherry before you sit down to this one.
Yeah, it might have helped.
Might help. Yeah.
The edge. Took the edge off a bit, but
let's see what the guys think. Yeah, Burranjor, your take on the Doctor of the Doctor of the Fijian wardrobe.
Well, actually, I'd say that, this one, along with The Wedding of Our Song and Let's Kill Hitler, those are the bottom 3 Matt Smith episodes, to be honest. Because this one is very bland and very forgettable. And it's a shame because this is really this is the only episode, actually, I think, that directly kind of honours C.S. Lewis, who his work had a huge impact on Doctor Who. I mean, obviously, the Wardrobe to Narnia, as we all know, is a precursor to the TARDIS.
Yes.
But even beyond that, The Magician's Nephew, which is my favourite Narnia book, that's a big influence on the original Dalek story, because it's the same. It's like the kids, they travel to this world. It's like a dead planet. And then they find this monster. It's Jadis, the White Witch, who's the one that killed her planet in a war. And it's similarly a metaphor for atomic power, like the Daleks. It was a real big influence on that. So to honour him with this kind of lackluster story, it's kind of like the way they honoured H.G. Wells with Time Lash. It's a bit of a shame that way. Although Time Lash is actually probably better than this, because at the very least, Time Lash is so bad it's entertaining. It's like Tommy Wiseau, whereas this was boring. And also, it was a terrible waste of Alexander Armstrong.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Who is a really good actor. I mean, I used to love the show he did with Ben Miller. And here, I mean, I could have played that part. It was nothing that they got him to do. So, don't like this one.
No. What about you, Goldenagedgeek?
Once again, I'm going to come in with a very different opinion here. I'm going to say that this episode's very underrated, in my opinion. There are a lot of moments that really stand out to me and do really represent what they were trying to do with this story. One of them, and it's one moment that I always refer back to when people try to counter my point that the scene between the 13th Doctor and Graham was somehow justified. I always refer it back to the scene where the Doctor is speaking with the mother, and she is, they've just got the notice that the dad has died, and she is having to, well, she's the one who's going to have to lead this family now because the father has died, and she starts crying, and she doesn't really understand why, and the Doctor points out to her that the reason she's crying is because she's seeing her children very happy right now, but eventually she's going to have to break that news to them, and she's going to have to be the reason why they are sad for possibly years to come. So the Doctor, and that level of understanding he has for loss and grief, it does reveal a lot about his character without, revealing too much to the point where it spoils the mystery surrounding him. And it does show that, yes, the Doctor is goofy, yes, the Doctor is whimsical and all these things, but when the times get serious, he does understand the implications and the consequences for, such tragedies.
Yeah.
So I do understand that, and I think that's what also works well about this. And the final scene where we see the Doctor going back to Amy and Rory, that did summon a few tears, I will admit. But I thought that was a really good ending. And again, just the fairy tale element is something that just really connects with me for some reason. I don't really understand why, but especially with Christmas, like with A Christmas Carol in the previous season, if Moffat's era is going to be very magical, then what better time to over exemplify that with Christmas, which is a holiday which many people.
The difference in quality between the two scripts, A Christmas Carol and The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe, is frankly shocking.
Yeah, there is a definite difference, isn't there?
That's a fair point. I think Golden Age Geek made about that story. I can understand seeing the merit in that. I still think overall, though, it's a bit of a slog, but I can appreciate that. That's a fair.
Yeah, it's a fair comment
made about it.
Yeah,
but also, I mean, A Christmas Carol. We agreed when we discussed it last week. But what it did was a once-only thing. You can only actually rip off A Christmas Carol once.
Yeah, that's it.
But trying to rip off a different book the following year, much less successful results. Partly because it's much less faithful to that story.
Yeah.
The White Witch is the best bit of Narnia. And they don't have anything resembling her. I mean, I remember there was an old Narnia fanfic net, and it was like fanfics about characters. Aslan had about 5, the kids had like 3 between them, and Jadis had like 150. That's how popular she was. So not having her in it was a mistake. That could have been an excuse for a wonderfully OTT type of performance, I think.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah,
it would have made a bit more sense to go all in on it like that, wouldn't it? Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that. So let's do some scores and call this stream a job done.
Yes.
Let's do Golden Age Geek score first because he's got the best view of this one.
Yes.
I'm going to unapologetically rate this episode an A-.
Wow!
No,
is a diverging opinion.
Yes, because Sadako's give it an F. Burranjor,
was there anything I actually liked in it? Gosh, not really. I'm just trying to see, do I think I can wangle some kind of D for it? But no, it's a total failure for me, this one. It's
I'd give it an E+.
A waste of resources. It's an E.
E+. Again, not as bad as Let's Kill Hitler, but on the level of Wedding of River Song. Bottom 3, Matt Smith.
So how many E's is that now for Series 6? 4?
3.
Well, 3. And
I'm 3 from me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of misses compared to previous series.
Yeah. I'm going to give it an E-. No, sorry, an E+, because there was
an E+. We've got every kind of E going here.
Only because there was an actual real Lancaster in it. That's yes.
Plus,
it was a real Lancaster.
Yeah.
So that's the plus.
If only it had 5 Lancasters, it might have made an A.
It could. Wow, if it had a whole spectrum, we could have possibly got to the A.
Dear. So, well, everybody, I say thank you for joining us for another Why We Love Doctor Who stream.
Been great.
Some parts of Doctor Who are certainly more true than others.
Just a bit.
And we're only going to have more of this for the following series.
Oh, yeah.
I like the following series. I think it's actually underrated, to be honest.
Are you
there
going to come
go.
back next week then and tell us why Series 7 is so good?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Cool,
Brilliant.
cool.
And what about you, Golden Age Geek? You with us again next week?
Definitely.
Oh,
So
100%.
the question is, are you lot going to join us? Because we're going to be jumping into Asylums of the Daleks right from the beginning from next week. We'll
Yes,
see where
indeed
that
we are.
journey goes.
Indeed.
So I am thinking that with the time of a Doctor and the day of a Doctor as well, it's going to be a lot to cover next week.
Yeah, there is quite a
Yeah.
bit to. Yeah, there is.
So we might have to think about that. I'm not sure. Maybe we should split it so we can do Day of the Doctor properly.
Yeah, I think I think Day of the Doctor needs to be done on. Yeah, we separate that. I think we should separate that one.
Sure thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, we'll do that then. We'll separate the Day of the Doctor out.
I'll tell you what we'll do. If we finish at Nightmare in Silver next week,
Yeah.
we could do Name of a Doctor, Day of a Doctor, Time of a Doctor as a special.
Yeah, why not? That sounds good to me.
Great idea.
Yeah, and then we can get in. We can do the whole thing that way. So let's do that. So next week we'll go up to Nightmare in Silver, and then the Of the Doctor trilogy will
Yes.
be its own thing.
Absolutely.
Right, great. I love it.
Then.
Thank
Excellent.
you, everybody. And see you again.
Yes, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Thanks everybody, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.